The night was very quiet, the room very fragrant. Yes, little Yi still applied scent. Her beautiful large eyes blinked. Are you sleeping in the room today? Most likely can only sleep in the room, Lin Ziasu honestly replied. Do we need to do a? Little Yi said. If we do, I'll go down and get a towel to sit on. When she said this, it was very natural. Because she is a robot, her programmed procedure was just that. Lin Ziasu's body had a bit of deformation. He gently shook his head. Pretend. Just pretend will do. I don't know how to pretend. Otherwise, you really do it. I see your physiological reactions are in place already. You should be able to complete it smoothly. Little Yi turned around. I'll go get the towel so as not to wet the bedsheets. She went to the bathroom and quickly came up with a dry towel, carefully laid it on the bed, and then lay down. Lin Ziasu closed his eyes. You rest, I will meditate. True Qi circulated inside his body for 7 or 8 loops before Lin Ziasu managed to push back the waves of heat in his belly and entered the state of meditation. Meditating all night. Little Yi maintained this extremely challenging pose, lying on the bed. In the morning, when Lin Ziasu opened his eyes and exited the meditative state, seeing this scene made him feel terrible. He couldn't stay in this house anymore. So he told his mother, there are a few cases at the agency, I need to go back. Little Yi was smiling beside him. If not for Little Yi's joyful expression, his mother might have suspected some issues between the young couple due to her son's sudden departure, but Little Yi's happy little face appeased her. As long as the daughter-in-law is happy and satisfied, then no problem at all. She nodded in agreement, and Lin Ziasu left the house. He entered the next-door second uncle's house. The second uncle, who was always at Liu Lin Temple, was surprisingly at home. Seeing Lin Ziasu, the second uncle smiled. Little Su Diane is back. Where is she? That girl, she's got some conscience, came back and went straight to Liu Lin Temple. She said she wanted to look after the temple for a few days for me, to let me stay at home with your second aunt. I'll go see her. Sure. Lin Ziasu went out. The second aunt came out from the inner room, looking at his figure. She sighed softly. This heartless kid, why is he looking for Diane? The laughter on the second uncle's face also disappeared. Everyone has their own fate. We old couple think they're quite suitable, but they don't think so. What can we do? Some things, after all, do not shift for human will. The two families are neighbors, inside out knows each other to the root. The two children grew up together like childhood friends. Did the adults have any ideas in their minds? Certainly. That's why the second aunt always sent good food to Lin Ziasu. Because her gaze at Lin Ziasu had somewhat the meaning of a mother-in-law looking at her son-in-law. But Diane went to the provincial city for treatment earlier, trained in the national team, leaving space for Little Yi from next door. Little Yi moved straight into the Lin family, and Lin Ziasu and Diane's childhood love seemed to have turned into nothing. The second aunt had a sense of desolation in her heart. As for the second uncle, men are generally more broad-minded, but he also felt a bit of disappointment. Liu Lin Temple with 4 beauties in a year, tender willows in spring, cicadas on summer nights, the long sky under the autumn moon, and the snowy mountain in winter. A day also has its beauties. The morning sun rises, with thin fog in the mountains dispersing with the wind. Sunset in the evening, a red sun covers Tashan. It was the early morning at this moment. The thin mountain fog drifted with the wind. The cool mountain breeze blew away last night's stuffiness and unveiled the mysterious veil of the cliffs. Uya sat on the platform outside Liu Lin Temple, holding a thread-bound book. This book was the reason she stayed at Liu Lin Temple. Returning home this time, her mood was extremely complicated. She felt a sense of strangeness. Yes, the entire world had become strange to her, even the most familiar old Tashan, even the most familiar people. Perhaps it wasn't these things that had changed, but herself. She was no longer the village girl of the past. She was a Qianlong Reserves Forces member. The world had turned a new page in her eyes. The home at Old Tashan had become a station in her life. Viewing the mountains and rivers with a higher level of perspective was quite different. Looking at the sea abyss scripture which she had occasionally read as a child, she saw things differently. In the past, when looking at the sea abyss scripture, she considered it nothing more than a nonsensical story. She was a girl, and even if she was tougher in a fight than boys, her heart was still that of a girl, not so interested in illogical myths. Therefore, when she read the sea abyss scripture in her childhood, it was nothing more than a glance. After entering the Qianlong base, the mysterious world opened its gates before her, and she understood that some things were closely related to myths. So, she came back, and she wanted to have a serious look at the sea abyss scripture, a book from her childhood. It took her 3 days to finish the book. Of course, she didn't have that good of a memory. Having read it didn't mean she could remember it. However, now she has equipment. Can't things that can't be remembered be captured on camera? The uploaded information can be accessed at any time in the future, and also directly increases points. Reaching 1,000 points means you can become a regular member. Just this Sea Abyss scripture alone added 300 points, and with the upcoming Reserve Forces trial tasks, the goal of 1,000 points, which seemed so distant, now doesn't seem so out of reach. The future is promising. Life should be comforting. Yet there are always things that stir her heart, evoking a hint of emotions rarely felt in her life. That little rascal Lin Ziasu actually opened a detective agency in the county town. And he did it with my best friend Miao Ruolan. Even though the detective agency is much lower end compared to my current career, it has gained some popularity in Fengcheng. If you just end up wrecking Miao Ruolan and you two become a couple, although I'd be a little disappointed, it wouldn't be too surprising to me. But what the hell are you doing, you little rascal? You even brought a girlfriend to live at home. Have you really given up on me? Don't you remember the promises from our childhood? That was when you were beaten up by the senior students, all bruised and swollen, and I rescued you. You told me with your face upturned, "Hoo-ya, when I grow up, I'll marry you and catch all kinds of game from the mountains to stew for you." Yes, it's been a long time. We've grown up. My body has started to mutate. I've become impervious to weapons. I did say, you definitely can't pierce through, but you have to try. How would you know you can't without trying? You would never believe that I came back this time with some crazy thoughts. At the turning point of my life, at a time when I can no longer return to my past life, I wanted to put an end to my ordinary village girl life and leave a mark on our friendship of more than 20 years. But with what you've done, how can I be crazy now? How can that mark be left? Memories pass like the wind, and willows sway gently. Huya's thoughts are like the Yichuan River, winding endlessly. Suddenly a voice comes, Huya. Huya opens her eyes abruptly and sees Lin Ziasu running up the mountain path. She takes a deep breath, suppressing the waves of emotions, and her face reveals a brilliant smile. Hey, hug. Rushing forward, about to knock Lin Ziasu back several steps like old times, but at the moment of contact, all of Huya's momentum vanishes. She gently and quietly hugs him. This must be the result of her training at Qianlong. Full control of strength at will. When did you come back? Lin Ziasu gently wraps his arm around her shoulder. I've been back for 3 days. Huya says, the national team had a training camp in Qingchuan. As soon as the training camp ended, I came back. There are no outsiders here. Yet she still speaks of the national team. She still mentions the training camp. What does that imply? It shows that he knows about Huya, but Huya doesn't know about him. She doesn't know about Lin Ziasu's involvement with Qianlong. Of course, she's even less likely to know that Lin Ziasu actually knows everything about her. This is normal. She's still not an official member of Qianlong. She, like Xinyu, is a reserve. Reserve forces can't possibly know too much about Qianlong's secrets. And Lin Ziasu's involvement with Qianlong is actually a deep secret even within Qianlong, one that ordinary gold medal members wouldn't know, except for number 88. Indeed, Huya's next words thoroughly confirm this. She seems to casually ask a question. Did you tell my mom about my training with the national team, or how did you find out? Jomei told me. Oh, if she told you, then it's correct. Huya steps out of his embrace and looks him up and down. It's been more than 4 months since we've seen each other. You've become more handsome. That's for sure. I'm going to get even more handsome. You're still as vain as before. Huya rolls her eyes at him. What about me? Any changes? You seem to have gotten a bit fatter. Using the word fatter to describe a girl is asking for a punch, but since you're staring at my chest as you say it, I'll take it as a compliment. Huya bites her lip and says, Damn, you're still as straightforward as ever. If there was any feeling of unfamiliarity in this reunion, it has disappeared with her straightforwardness. The familiar feeling is gradually coming back. especially before lunch, Huya suggests. How about I catch some game and stew it for us to eat? This is the most standard procedure for their interaction. Lin Zaiasu gives her a sideways glance. Just so you know, I'm definitely not eating wild boar. It's not that he won't eat wild boar. It's just that the way she kills them in her unique style makes it hard to swallow. Taking a stick and prodding the animal's ass, just thinking about it makes it hard to eat. Huya says, don't worry, a wild boar weighs a few 100 pounds. We absolutely can't finish it. Besides, my dad is notoriously lazy, and if things go wrong, it'll rot in the Taoist temple and stink up the place. I'll go catch some rabbits instead. As her voice drops, Huya jumps down from the platform. It looks like the same as the old days. But Lin Zaiasu can still sense the changes in her. Her speed has increased at least twice as much as before. Her strength is controlled at will. The biggest change is the precision of her moves, which are now systematic. She's perfected the military 8 forms. Chapter 165. Chapter 165. My heart wanders unsure where to go. Her real combat strength may well match that of number 88. This is truly astonishing. Number 88, a gold medal holder ranked in the top 100, is a true veteran and a training instructor. Yet she, a reserve, could match an instructor. How unimaginable is that? Of course, Huya was unaware of this perception. She naturally assumed that Lin Zaiasu couldn't understand her changes, because her understanding of Lin Zaiasu was still too shallow. Perhaps her focus wasn't even on this aspect. Her mind was filled with strange tales about the detective agency, but she instinctively left matters of physical skills to Miao Rulan and emotional issues tangled her heart. So she didn't know that Lin Zaiasu had trained in ancient martial, and in some aspects, he was even Miao Rulan's master. The rabbit was caught, and Huya skinned it. The two stewed the rabbit meat in the small kitchen of the Taoist temple. Simmering it halfway before braising it, the familiar taste returned. In the afternoon, they wandered around the Taoist temple, talking about the past and also their future plans. Huya, what are your plans for the future? Since I've joined the national team, naturally, I aim to bring glory to the country. How long can you stay at home this time? I'm leaving tomorrow, Huya said. Tomorrow? There's a training camp in the northwest. Northwest? Which part of the northwest? The location isn't determined yet. That's not important. Huya said, what about you? What are your plans? Lin Zaiasu can proceed with translating. She has a reserve test scheduled. The test location is in the northwest. She is to set off tomorrow. The specific location is confidential, so it's best to change the topic and not discuss it. Lin Zaiasu said, what plans can I have? Just hanging around the detective agency, gathering some dowry to find a bride. Huya sighed inwardly. She wanted to say, why do you need a dowry? Your bride is already living at home. But perhaps this topic wasn't one she wanted to explore, so she simply gave up on the chance to retort sharply. The afternoon passed, and Liulin Temple welcomed the most beautiful time of the day. The setting sun dyed the horizon's clouds red. The red glow lent a sacred and solemn touch to the ancient stone tower atop the distant mountain, and cast a golden light over the distant Yichuan River. The wind passed by as the night quietly descended. Tonight there are stars but no moon. Huya and Lin Zaiasu sat back to back on a rock, which was their preferred way. Back to back, head to head, they could hear each other's breathing and hear each other speak. Everything around them was within their line of sight, and they were a central point between heaven and earth. Do you ever feel, growing up is a strange thing? Huya looked up at the sky, her head getting even closer to Lin Zaiasu. What are your thoughts? Lin Zaiasu asked. When we were young, we longed to grow up. We also imagined what it would be like when we did. But actually growing up means our paths diverged, and it's impossible to return to those early days. Not necessarily, Lin Zaiasu said. Perhaps one day in the future on your path you might see me too. I really hope there will be such a day, but I also know it seems unlikely. Huya slowly turned her head, changing from back to back to embracing Lin Zaiasu from behind. Little Sue. What's on your mind? Lin Zaiasu gently held her hand, feeling the warmth and passion from behind. Take care of yourself. I hope every time I return I find you well. You too, take care of yourself, Lin Zaiasu said. I will wait for you on my path, and if there's a chance I might also visit your path. Tonight there is no moon. Tonight there are stars. In the silent Taoist temple, they slept on the flagstones as they used to. When they slept, there was a 5-inch gap between them. But at midnight, the gap between them disappeared. Huya at some point was resting on his arm. In the early morning, Huya slowly opened her eyes, gazing long at Lin Zaiasu, who was still asleep. Her lips gently touched his, very lightly. This touch neither disturbed the mosquitoes circling in Liulin Temple, nor the morning mountain wind. Of course, in her mind, it was even less likely to disturb Lin Zaiasu. Then she got up and left the Liulin Temple. Lin Zaiasu's eyes slowly opened, watching her figure disappear into the woods. By the time he got to the outdoor terrace of Liulin Temple, Huya's figure had reached the highway. Lin Zaiasu stretched out his hand, and a pair of glasses appeared in his palm. Search for Li Dayanyan's itinerary. Soon, information appeared in the glasses. Yesterday, Li Dayanyan booked a high-speed train ticket from Huanggang Station to Ning City. Ning City. A reserve training trial is in the vicinity of Ning City, northwest. During the reserve training trial, outsiders cannot intervene or offer any help. There is an instructor accompanying the reserve training trial, ensuring safety. Lin Zaiasu searched for the place name, perhaps only as a psychological comfort. In front of them, their paths diverged, but in the future they were surely destined to converge again. Footsteps sounded on the mountain path. Second uncle arrived. He didn't see his daughter, instead he saw Lin Zaiasu, his eyes widening. Where's Dayan? She just left for the Northwest training camp, Lin Zaiasu said. Were you here last night? Yeah, Lin Zaiasu said. Mainly to give you a heads up, second uncle, I've calculated when ecliptic splits will occur. Second uncle was quite agitated just a moment before. Lin Zaiasu, this kid, leaving his own wife to spend the night with his daughter. What a provocative topic. But before the shock could travel from his brain to his heart, he suddenly heard this 10 times more shocking news. Ecliptic splits, second uncle's heart pounded at these words. No one understood better than him what these 4 words meant. He could only calculate ecliptic change days, which are the lowest tier of celestial phenomena changes. On such a day, the 2 realms are not directly connected. At most, there's just a leakage of qi. So it wasn't particularly dangerous. But ecliptic splits are a mid-tier level of celestial phenomena changes. It's possible for the 2 realms to directly connect. He couldn't calculate when ecliptic splits would occur. It was like a thunderbolt hanging overhead, not knowing when it would strike, making life truly nerve-wracking. Yes, I used the records from a Taoist book to observe celestial phenomena, and after repeated confirmations, the date should be accurate. Which day? Second uncle took a deep breath. Next year, the first day of the Lunar New Year. The first day of the Lunar New Year during the big celebration. Little Sue, how should we deal with it? Second uncle became flustered. That day I'll be there. Don't worry, second uncle, I will be prepared. You have good relations with the police and they listen to you. Luckily we have you. If it were just me, they definitely wouldn't listen and things would really be troublesome. Second uncle effectively passed all the pressure onto Lin Zaiasu. Anyway, people wouldn't listen to him. Talk too much, and people might even consider him mentally ill and lock him up. And Lin Zaiasu, who runs a detective agency in the county, is said to have very good relations with the police. With him around, second uncle couldn't be bothered with the hassle. Lin Zaiasu stood up. Second uncle, I'm leaving. Little Sue, did Dayan say? When will she be back? The training camp is uncertain. It depends on the results. If her performance is good, she'll definitely continue training. If her performance is poor and she's expelled from the national team, then she'll return home soon, Lin Zaiasu explained. Second uncle glared at him. How could Dayan possibly perform poorly? Stop being a jinx. Yes, unlike others, her performance will definitely be good. From Fengcheng she'll make her way to Beijing, then on to international competitions, but that way, she probably won't be back home soon. Second uncle said, what does it matter whether she returns home? We old folks are still robust, not dying anytime soon. Does she need to feed us tea and meals? Lin Zaiasu laughed and descended the mountain. Second uncle walked into Liulin Temple, holding one palm to his chest facing the ancient statue within. Wulian Tianzun, bless my Dayan, may she not return home too soon. It was foreseeable that, in the upcoming times, if second aunt grumbled about why her daughter was returning home, second uncle would definitely leverage Lin Zaiasu's reasoning. A daughter doesn't return home early unless her performance is poor. When Lin Zaiasu returned to the detective agency, Ruolan had gone out to handle a case. Josai was the only one in the office. Upon seeing him, Josai stood up. "Brother Lin, I need to discuss something with you." "What is it?" "I'll close the door, come to my room." A flutter passed through Lin Zaiasu's heart. Josai pulled the entrance door of the detective agency closed and entered her room first. Lin Zaiasu also entered. Josai opened her bedside drawer, took out a bracelet and handed it to him. "Brother Lin, please take this bracelet back." "Why?" Josai said. "A classmate of mine works in jewelry. She accidentally saw this bracelet and she said it's worth at least 200,000. Her face was flushed and her hands trembled. "I know its market price. What's wrong?" "You know, why would you give it to me? Don't you know how I make money?" Lin Zaiasu, holding her hand, pushed the bracelet back. "Consider it like I gave you a lump of dirt." Josai burst out laughing. I really don't know what to say about you." "Then don't say anything, just work well and repay me your boss." "Yes, sir." Josai stood at attention excitedly. Relaxing a bit, she added, "There's just one serious issue." "What?" "If I get a boyfriend in the future and tell him that my boss gave me a 200,000 bracelet, won't he be tremendously pressured?" "Haha, that ought to motivate him to strive harder." Lin Zaiasu turned and walked out. As he reached the door, he suddenly stopped. Josai, excited, was following too quickly and nearly bumped into him. She abruptly halted. Lin Zaiasu turned around. "How's your rejuvenation skill practice going?" Chapter 166. Chapter 166. There's a misunderstanding called seeing with your own eyes. Josai gently shook her head. "No matter what, I couldn't get the hang of it. Sister Lan definitely taught with care, but I might really be too dull." Lin Zaiasu said, "How about trying a new method?" "What?" "I'll help you find that point." Josai's heartbeat sped up. "Can you practice like that?" "It should be feasible," Lin Zaiasu said. "Now," Josai asked. "The door outside is also closed. Let's practice," Lin Zaiasu said. "Lie down on the bed." Josai's face instantly turned red. Her heart seemed to have jumped to who knows where. In broad daylight with the door closed, Sister Lan not around in her room, asking her to lie on the bed. Is this really not moving with ulterior motives? In the workplace, what many girls fear the most is the unwritten rules. But is she afraid? Josai got on the bed and lay down, closing her eyes. A hand stretched over, lifting the hem of her skirt. His fingertips seemed to unintentionally brush across her lower abdomen, causing Josai to tremble slightly. "Don't be afraid, it won't hurt. The process is quite comfortable," Lin Zaiasu said. "Comfortable? My God, are you serious?" Sister Lan said she had never been here. "You're starting for real on me." Just as her mind was filled with complicated thoughts, a finger was placed on her lower abdomen, and Lin Zaiasu's voice reached her ears. "Focus all your thoughts. Since this point, once you locate its specific position, you've succeeded halfway." Josai's thoughts dispersed a great distance away. Is this really practicing the technique? Rejuvenation skill, incredibly marvelous. Practicing the rejuvenation skill is like achieving ancient martial arts, non-human agility, and moreover, it beautifies girls who practice it. Josai really wanted to learn this skill. Finally, there was a breakthrough opportunity. She forgot everything. She summoned all her sensing power to sense this point. At first, with distracting thoughts emerging, she could sense nothing. But the strange force on his hand seemed to inherently possess a magic power to calm people. Gradually, she entered an extremely profound state. Finally, she sensed that point. "Brother Lin, I sensed it." Josai slowly opened her eyes. "Then just lie down quietly and consolidate it." Lin Zaiasu withdrew his finger and left the room. Josai lay on the bed, maintaining her previous posture, her clothes, even not put down, revealing half of her white belly. Lin Zaiasu also felt differently, the tender feeling on his fingertips transforming into a marvelous comfort, flowing into his brain. He went downstairs and opened the door of the detective agency. Suddenly, he was slightly startled. In front of the detective agency, a black car. The car door opened, and a female police officer stepped out, looking at him with a slight smile. "Hey," shutting the roller shutter in broad daylight, "what are you up to?" "Joe May." The long-unseen Joe May had arrived. "What can I be up to?" "Just conserving energy, waiting for you to come over to discuss how the police star twinkles." Lin Zaiasu stared at her shoulder, a golden star sparkling there. That star, that was the police star she always yearned for. Finally, on her shoulder. Jo May smiled, her beautiful large eyes squinting into slits. You noticed. If you came specially to show off and I didn't notice, wouldn't you be greatly disappointed? You're wrong there, I didn't come today to show off, on the contrary. I'm feeling a bit depressed. What happened? Make me a good cup of tea. Jo May sat on the sofa, holding up the tea Lin Zaiasu made for her. The Bureau has begun selecting people for genetic transformation. This is the first time since the founding of the nation. Lin Zaiasu's heart skipped a beat, the police force undergoing genetic transformation. That's not uncommon in big cities. As mentioned before, the relationship between police and criminals is inherently a continuous cycle of one-upmanship. If criminals enhance their abilities, police must also enhance. It's not a matter of willingness, but a necessity. However, genetic transformation is not a simple issue. It involves success rates, post-transformation medication adjustments, and genetic rejection. So previously, county-level public security generally did not employ genetic policemen. But now, the direction is starting to change. Even small 8th-tier counties are getting involved. This kind of involvement is actually an internal competitive pressure. Is it nationwide? Yes, the international situation has undergone major changes, cases showing high martial traits everywhere. These complex patterns force us to make strong responses, Jo May said. This time, Fengcheng County selected 4 people. Are you among them? Jo May gently shook her head. If I was among them, I wouldn't have a reason to be dejected. It's because I don't meet the criteria, that's why I'm upset. What conditions are required? Only one, children without siblings are not included, which would mean I'll be excluded forever unless my parents can miraculously have another child. Children without siblings not included, Lin Zaiasu sighed softly. That's quite tragic. Others might not understand the implications of this rule, but Lin Zaiasu knew. Genetic transformation is a highly dangerous procedure with only a 30% success rate. That's one reason. Secondly, even if successful, it's uncertain how long one might live afterward. Thirdly, even if these issues were not a concern, there's the nature of the assignment. Future genetic police will be at the forefront of police operations, acting as minesweepers, and their mortality rate will be much higher than ordinary people. Thus, the police regulation is, children without siblings are not included. This isn't discrimination against only children. It truly stems from a desire to protect human nature. They don't want to see elderly parents lose their only child. They don't want to see the elderly left all alone. Chief Zhang was chosen, and that son Yang was selected too. Chief Zhang, Lin Zaiasu was surprised. There should also be a rule excluding fathers of underage children, right? Isn't Chief Zhang just in his 30s, not yet 40? Are his children of age? You haven't heard, Jo May said. Chief Zhang's son died 3 years ago, and his wife passed too. The murderer has been identified. It was Ghost Eye Old Seven's doing. Lin Zaiasu felt a heaviness in his heart. People in the detective agency say Chief Zhang has a coffin face. They also say he's a workaholic, spending nearly every night at the criminal investigation team, treating the office like his home. Now he understood. He doesn't have a home. So many people lose their own homes in order to provide a stable home for others. There are many ordinary positions that carry untold distress. Jo May smiled softly. His incident happened a long time ago. After dealing with the 5.16 major case, he even began to smile. If you must be somber for me. I've lost the path to reach the pinnacle. Lin Zaiasu's face relaxed. You're that eager to join them. Tell your parents to get to work on having another child. If you keep encouraging me, I might really convince my parents. After some laughter, a cup of tea. Jo May got up to go upstairs to use the restroom. She came out quickly, habitually pushing open a door. Such lack of caution isn't common among police elsewhere, but here, well. The moment Jo May opened the door, she froze. Damn! Lin Zaiasu jumped up. Analyzing a complex major event with Jo May earlier had stirred his emotions, causing him to forget something. That was, Josai was still lying in bed at that moment. She was sensing, solidifying her connection to the true Qi origin. The origin was so mystical that any slight alarm might disrupt the connection, so she dared not move. But Jo May had opened her door. What would she think seeing this scene? In broad daylight, doors closed. It could be explained by a lazy morning if he were alone in the detective agency. But clearly there were two people, and the woman was still in bed, unable to get up. Jomei quietly and stealthily closed the door. Her face changing rapidly, she slowly walked downstairs, slowly approached Lin Zaiasu. Lin Zaiasu's mind raced, but he couldn't find a plausible explanation. What's the saying again? Lingering afterglow, right? Jomei smirked. Speaking of which, her afterglow period is quite long. I've had 3 cups of tea and she still hasn't recovered. Is the effect always this strong? Damn, Lin Zaiasu said. It's not what you think. We were practicing. Yes, practicing, of course practicing. Was it the Chunsui technique? Jomei said sternly. This is, genuinely the rejuvenation skill. Isn't that the same thing? Jomei scoffed. I can't stay here otherwise. Not finding you 3,000 seems unfair to this uniform. Jomei got up and led the way. Lin Zaiasu scratched his head frantically. As she was walking out the door, Lin Zaiasu spoke up. Hey, you're upset about not being able to join the genetic police, right? Want a new path? What? Jomei asked. Practice the rejuvenation skill yourself. It's not genetic transformation but surpasses it. Wouldn't that be better? Jomei bit her lips slowly. Like you and Josei were practicing. Pretty much. Jomei shook her head gently. Caught in the act, and you try to drag me down to cover it up. I must admire how quickly your mind works. Forget it. I won't use such shameless tactics. Isn't my promise not to tell Miao Ryulen enough? She drove away. Lin Zaiasu was in disarray in the wind. Half an hour later, Josei came out, her cheeks flushed, extremely excited, and grabbed Lin Zaiasu's hand. Brother Lin, I really felt that wonderful feeling. You are incredible. Cough, cough, there are people outside, people. Lin Zaiasu quickly pulled his hand away. After lunch, Miao Ryulen returned from outside and seemed to notice something different about Josei. What's gotten into this girl today? She's too excited. She quietly asked Lin Zaiasu, what happened to Zier, what stirred her up? Lin Zaiasu told the truth. She must have sensed the rejuvenation origin. Ah, so soon? Miao Ryulen also got excited. Is it because you college-educated folks inherently have a higher understanding? Chapter 167. Chapter 167. This matter is strange to Josei. I went to college. Maybe that's the best reason she can find. Because Lin Zaiasu went to college, so did Josei. She insisted on understanding it this way, and Lin Zaiasu didn't refute. After dinner, as dusk had just fallen, Josei plunged into her room, foregoing her usual habit of going out for a stroll. The dedication also touched Miao Ryulen. If Zier is working so hard, should I also put in the effort? Lin Zaiasu's heart skipped a beat. Are you ready? One sentence, and Miao Ryulen's heartbeat skyrocketed to 180. Are you ready? 5 words, which represented a month of entanglement and tenderness since the last experiment failed. The reason for the last failure was that she got too easily stimulated in front of him. Josei came up with a crooked idea, to fight fire with fire. You walk the path of constant stimulation with him, do the most stimulating thing, and then lesser stimulations can be faced with equanimity. Is tonight that time? To say whether or not you are ready, who can be sure about such things? A woman's first time. How do you prepare for that? But she must admit, it varies from person to person, and in front of him she seems to have been ready for a long time. Even if her mind wasn't ready, her body was. That's why she was so defenseless in front of him. That's why he always appeared in her dreams. I'll go take a shower. Miao Ryulen closed the door of the detective agency and almost ran upstairs. Lin Zaiasu returned to his bedroom, his mind somewhat restless. The memories of last time were vivid in his mind. The feelings of last time were especially distinct in his heart. Her shyness, her trembling, seemed to have trembled into his heart. Time ticked away, minute by minute. It seemed to pass slowly, yet also quickly. Finally, the door gently opened. Yes, it wasn't locked, just pushed open. Miao Ryulen closed the door gently behind her, a soft click as she locked it. Lin Zaiasu looked up to see a Miao Ryulen he seemed never to have seen before. Her cheeks were faintly flushed. Her hair washed and blow-dried. Her sleepwear, the most beautiful piece she had, thin, short, also slightly see-through. The room's main light wasn't on. The soft glow of the lamp cast her in a dreamlike fantasy. In the past, Miao Rulan's clothes hid all her beauty, exposing only her one flaw, her face. Everyone subconsciously overlooked her facial appearance. But today, the dim light masked her facial imperfections, while revealing her most beautiful body in a perfect pose before Lin Zaiasu. Seeing this image made Lin Zaiasu's heartbeat accelerate. The night before last, Little Yi propped a towel, posing in a way that was ready to soil the sheets, waiting for him, but he forbore. Because he couldn't get over the psychological hurdle with robots. But tonight's Miao Rulan wasn't a robot. However, it seemed inappropriate to back down now. She had come, and the world had greatly changed. Even the police in the small 8-tier towns have started genetic transformation. What did it indicate? It indicated that the situation had become very severe. His detective agency had become involved in the world's tides without realizing it, and he had offended too many people. Rulan's cultivation was key to whether the detective agency could safely survive this calamity. There was no time for hesitation. Like last time, Rulan whispered, breathing out a fragrant breath. Indeed, she had a faint scent about her tonight. This whiff of fragrance seemed to sway Lin Zaiasu's consciousness, finally causing the long-block dike to burst. After a long while, the rental house quieted down, with only a different kind of breath lingering. Rulan. I actually never thought it would be like this. It's okay, this is part of training. Training? Miao Rulan smiled softly. It's all Little Yi's fault, the naughty girl, she said. She said I have a sensitive constitution and can't meditate in your presence unless we take care of the most stimulating thing. Then I can truly calm my mind and train. You can't be serious. You can find someone to blame for this. It doesn't matter now, it's done. We'll continue to practice. I must succeed this time. The training continued. Practicing again turned out to be much better. Miao Rulan could now face Lin Zaiasu's hands with equanimity. She finally sensed a clear path. With the opening of this route, the rejuvenation skill stepped through a brand new grand doorway. The next day seemed to be business as usual. Miao Rulan still got up early, still bringing Lin Zaiasu breakfast as always. While he was having breakfast, Miao Rulan quietly returned to the second floor and pulled the bedsheets off his bed. Her cheeks blushed crimson as she did so. This was the most significant breakthrough of her life, blooming quietly in the night before. Josei probably had no idea. That girl was crazily practicing last night, yep, truly practicing. She has not woken up yet. She had to hurry and wash the sheets. With nimble hands, she finished washing the sheets and checked them over carefully. It probably wouldn't show. Hang it up. Just as she had hung them up neatly, Josei stepped out of her room. Sister Lan, good morning. Morning. Josei pushed open the bathroom door, but before she entered, she turned around. Sister Lan, why do you look so pretty today? Nonsense. Everyone in Fengcheng knows I never look pretty. Miao Rulan rolled her eyes at her. Seriously, I think you look really beautiful today. Go look in the mirror. She went in, and water cascaded in the bathroom. Miao Rulan gently touched her face. Pretty. How could that be? That's definitely my biggest shortcoming. Oh right, there's still something urgent to take care of. She left the house, turning left at a pharmacy. In this small county town, if nothing else, there were pharmacies aplenty. She bought a box of morning-after pills. What's a morning-after pill? Those in the know know. She quietly swallowed one. Just like that, last night's events were put behind her. Rulan, I'm going to the northwest. Lin Zaiasu had finished his noodles and tossed the box into the trash. The northwest. Miao Rulan was feeling a bit shy today and didn't dare look at him, but she still turned around when she heard this news. When will you be back? That I'm not so sure about. Lin Zaiasu's hand came down, resting on her shoulder, giving a gentle tug, and Rulan was softly pulled into his embrace. Rulan leaned into his arms obediently, but her eyes didn't leave the staircase above. As footsteps sounded on the stairs above, Lin Zaiasu let go. Brother Lin, you're going to the northwest. I'm leaving the house in your care. Don't worry, Josei patted her chest. Sister Lan is an expert and I'm about to become one too. Fengcheng Detective Agency stands tall in Fengcheng with an uplifting spirit. Boss, wherever you go, you can be at ease. Lin Zaiasu laughed. You've got the airs of an expert before the skills. By the time you return, I reckon I'll have the skills ready. That's great, I'll be looking forward to reviewing your homework. Lin Zaiasu left the detective agency, casually beckoning, and a taxi stopped before him. Stepping into the taxi, his figure disappeared amongst the busy streets of Fengcheng. Miao Yulin quietly watched the door for a long time. "Sister Lan, what's Brother Lin doing in the northwest?" Zhou Zai asked. "I don't know." Lin Ziasu's trip to the northwest was likely known in its entirety by only one person in this world. That was Blue Demon. At this moment, Blue Demon had returned to Qianlong headquarters, sitting inside the little blue house. She named herself, facing Blood Trace, who came to visit. The morning sunlight rose. Blood Trace started 10 meters away, crossing the small river in one leap, alighting on the platform as the mountain wind whipped his hair, making it fly about. The blood-red scar on his forehead twisted like a bloody snake in the sunlight, conveying a sense of ferocity yet an odd charm. "One mission eliminated Du Tianj and also Chu Tianquo. It looks like the hidden dragon medal is yours to claim this year," Blood Trace said with a light smile. "Congratulations." Blue Demon lightly smiled. "It's a pity that the person behind this isn't from Qianlong, or else the medal should rightfully go to him." This him, of course, referred to Lin Ziasu. Blood Trace paused. This was his plan. 100%, Blue Demon replied. If he were part of Qianlong, he could stand alongside Bai Shui as one of Hidden Dragon's brilliant strategists. "Tell me, how did he plan it out?" Blood Trace sat down in front of Blue Demon. The two were equally matched in combat strength and status, having fought side by side in Qianlong for many years, forging a deep companionship. Among the 18 Heavenly Kings, their relationship was particularly solid. Blue Demon didn't conceal anything. She laid out all the details of the hunt for Du Tianj and Chu Tianquo. Blood Trace's gaze flickered in the sunlight, lifting his head after hearing everything. "Is he in Fengcheng now?" "Should be. Why? Want to have a chat with him?" Blood Trace said, "Yes, I want to talk to him to see if it's possible in this vast sea of people to find that person." Blue Demon softly shook her head. "You think that's not very realistic?" Blood Trace asked. Blue Demon replied, "Indeed, it isn't very realistic. Not to mention that no one in this world can find where the white-clothed king has gone, even if he really turns everything upside down to the point where he can locate the white-clothed king. Then what?" Blood Trace fell silent. He was an ancient martial practitioner. He was a Qianlong legend. His entire life had been spent in blood and fire, reaping glory. Yet there was a poisonous thorn that had been deeply embedded in his heart for 3 full years. This poisonous thorn was the white-clothed king. Chapter 168. Chapter 168, Mysterious Kunlun. This mark on his forehead was left by the white-clothed king. From then on it became a mark of shame for him, the Qianlong king. It was not difficult to remove the scar on his forehead, but the real challenge was removing the scar in his heart. Thus, he refused the treatment of modern medicine on the forehead scar, choosing to heal it in his own way. However, ambitions as ancient as time also require matching capabilities. Over these 3 years, he had been tracking the white-clothed king's movements, yet he was unable to pinpoint him. The whereabouts of the white-clothed king were elusive, now in Fusing, then in Daxia, and next far in Luoba continent. Locating him was an extremely difficult task. And even if he did manage to locate him, what then? The cultivation of the Blood Trace King had indeed progressed significantly over the years, but who could guarantee that the white-clothed king hadn't progressed as well? Once they faced each other, it could either be his chance to redeem himself, or it might be that the white-clothed king would leave him with a new mark. Unless it were Jing Lei. Only if Jing Lei could swiftly execute the assassination after he located the white-clothed king. But that did not fit the king's glory. Jing Lei had many big responsibilities and was not his nanny. Hence, it was evident that the Blood Trace King was somewhat paranoid. Blue Demon felt embarrassed to criticize him directly, preferring to subtly remind him to stay calm with a casual, and then. Right now, on the high-speed train, Lin Ziasu was also reminding himself to stay calm. Entering the northwest and contacting Kun Kang was a necessary action, because the 2 strange entities in Conch Valley had given him a real shock. Many things are like this. Hearing about ancient creatures is fine as legends, but their real appearance in the world, projecting myths into reality, brings an impact that legends cannot compare to. Huangjai appeared, Snow Turtle appeared. These were 2 auspicious beasts. This was Yixiang's luck. But who could guarantee it would be as fortunate the next time? Yixiang was right next to Conch Valley. Even if she is not considered his woman, she is after all his comrade or perhaps a friend. This was her real crisis. Moreover, looking at the issue couldn't be too one-sided. The problem appeared in Conch Valley. What about Tashin then? Tashin is also a connection point to the other world. And the ecliptic splits are happening next year on the first day of the new year. The invasion steps of the ancient creatures were already visible. He could not ignore this. He must find the opportunity to break the situation. And Kun Kang was the only opportunity he could see. Mysterious Kun Kang. Originally he had no way to touch it, but then Ding Ryushui gave him a painting which was a map. Before receiving the map, if Lin Zaiasu thought that Ding Ryushui was half related to Kun Kang, with this map, he could almost be sure that Ding Ryushui was the world traveler of Kun Kang. Unfortunately, Ding Ryushui had gone off the radar. Phone calls couldn't get through, messages were unread. There aren't many places in modern society that satellites can't reach. If it's not that she intentionally turned off her phone, then she must have already entered another realm. The high-speed train passed Ning City, past Gencheng, ascended the highland. Above the highland, the expanse was vast. The sky was high and the clouds were sparse, snow-capped mountains in the distance, and the green grassland where cattle and sheep were like white waves in a green ocean. From the distant horizon, the sound of singing faintly carried over. The songs from the grassland were loud and full of penetrating power. Passengers on the high-speed train took out their cameras to capture this beautiful scene. A mighty eagle swept across from a distant mountain peak. Although just a tiny dot, yet in the boundless vast grassland, it still held the majesty of a king of the sky. "Ah, that's the Kunlun divine eagle," cried a young man nearby. "Eagles are plenty on the grassland. What makes you think that one is the Kunlun divine eagle?" retorted someone else. The first young man, agitated, explained, "The Kunlun divine eagle is twice the size of other eagles on the grassland, and it seems to carry a Buddhist glow." "Cut, that's just the sunlight." Lin Zaiasu stared at this eagle in the sky, agreeing with the initial young man's view. Others might not see clearly, but he could. The eagle's talons resembled Yujin casting. Its feathers softly glinted with gold. This was certainly not merely a reflection of the sun, it was an extraordinary color on the eagle. Suddenly, the eagle in the sky made a fierce dive. It snatched a lamb from the bushes and soared into the sky. The herdsman was right nearby, yet strangely, he made no move to stop it with his long horse-catching pole. Instead, he looked on smilingly as the huge eagle carried his lamb into the sky. "Damn, this eagle steals sheep to eat and you're saying it has Buddha's light. What kind of Buddha is that?" Several young people were having an intense discussion on the train, debating the profound topic of whether a sheep-stealing eagle possesses Buddha nature. Eventually, an old man offered a perspective. "This place is Tibet, and the Buddha of Tibet is different from the Buddha of the interior regions. In the interior regions, doing good deeds is equivalent to being a Buddha. In Tibet, the Buddha is imbued in the natural phenomena of the earth and mountains. In the natural laws, it is a heavenly principle for an eagle to prey on the four-legged animals of the grasslands. Therefore, its occasional theft of a few sheep does not contradict its Buddha nature." This viewpoint silenced the young people's discussion. Lin Zaiasu lifted his gaze, focusing on this middle-aged man. This middle-aged man seemed to have done some research on Tibetan culture. Quickly, he discerned a thread from the conversational snippets of the people nearby. This person, a university professor, Professor Yin, from Nanjiang University. Professor Yin wasn't alone. Beside him were 5 others who looked like students. 3 men and 2 women. Among the 3 men, one was particularly handsome. The 2 women, both pretty, but in entirely different ways. The taller woman walked the path of elegant beauty, while the petite woman, like a shy camellia, shying away in the corner, quietly blooming. Anyone who glanced her way would cause her to blush upon eye contact. If this was merely a scene during the journey, passing this shared path likely wouldn't lead to further encounters. However, it seemed as if the gears of fate were meshing between them. Lin Zaiasu soon discovered that this group boarding the high-speed train from Gancheng shared the same destination as him. Huixian Town at the foot of Kunlun Mountain. In the bus, he traveled with this group, arriving at an ancient Huixian town simultaneously at a hotel. It was late August, and although it was still hot outside here, the mountain breeze from Kunlun whisked away the summer heat, bringing an early arrival of the cool autumn wind. Linzai Asu, carrying his luggage, ascended to the second floor of the hotel. He set down his baggage, then stepped onto the second-floor platform. This Tibetan-style hotel, akin to a felt tent on the grasslands with its dome-shaped top, offered no view from the roof. However, the proprietor constructed a viewing platform on this floor. Currently basking in good business, the platform's teahouse bore about 10 tables, half filled with people enjoying tea, cracking seeds, munching snacks, and appreciating the beautiful view. Linzai Asu pushed open the glass door, and fresh air filled his nostrils. He didn't head for the tea tables but walked to the edge of the platform, leaning over the balcony railing to look eastward at a vast expanse of blue lake water. This lake called Yanquo. Quo meaning lake. Yanquo, smoky lake. Legend has it that this lake is shrouded in clouds for at least 200 days a year. Even on this clear weather day in early autumn, the lake appeared half veiled in autumn water, half in mist, resembling a celestial paradise. Down below, the small town Huixian, clean and beautiful with white buildings and blue skies. The clouds seemed to lose their way between heaven and earth. To the northwest, the vast and vague Kunlun Mountain, exuding a boundless yet intricately detailed allure. This refinement differed entirely from that of Jiangnan. Jiangnan's detail lies in every grass and tree meticulously pruned like artworks, whereas here, the coarseness also contained refinement, like bold strokes of ink splashed on a vast canvas, sketching a beautiful montage. Linzai Asu focused on a road at the foot of Kunlun Mountain. This road, wide at the entrance like a bell mouth, narrowed further in, with several curves resembling the turning back of a great dragon. In his mind, an image quietly surfaced. This image, precisely the painting Window by Ding Ruishui. Outside the window was this road, sketched with simple strokes indiscernible to most, but Linzai Asu, blending his knowledge of famous mountains and rivers from the northwestern region, compared it to the painting, recognizing this road as Kunlun Mountain. Now, here at the base of Kunlun, the details of that painting slowly filled in, and he was astonished to find that this very road was indeed the one in the image. He put on his dragon-eye device, performing a live search. A sea of information flooded in. Locals called this the Mian Road. Why Mian Road? Because it contained otherworldly items that are difficult to find in the mundane world, as unpredictable as mist and clouds. There were thousand-year-old snow lotuses, ancient glaciers, nameless bodies beneath the glaciers, still lifelike despite 1,000 years passing. Mysterious blue fires atop glaciers that, when an ailing elder stumbled upon them, miraculously recovered overnight, the body rejuvenated as if they were young again. Strange fruits hung on branches for decades without rotting, resembling the legendary peach from the outside. However, they were entirely unpredictable inside. Some held fresh, delicious pulp, the pinnacle of earthly delights. Others, however, emitted a foul smell, or worse yet, might contain a flying white worm that, upon opening the fruit, would burrow into a person's brain, rendering them lifeless. All legends seemed to point in one direction: that everything on the Mian Road was unpredictable. Everything seemingly had a dual nature, whether a chance encounter or the scythe of the soul summoner, hinged on a single thought. Suddenly, a sharp clang. On the edge of the platform, Linzai Asu turned back to see the shy girl he had traveled with. She had accidentally bumped into the balcony door's glass, rubbing her head, seemingly a bit dazed. Chapter 169. Chapter 169. An expedition team, none of them are simple. Linzai Asu smiled. This girl was very shy, always keeping her head down and even walking with her head lowered, causing her to bump into the glass door this time. When he looked up and smiled, the girl's cheeks instantly turned red, almost turning around to run away, but she still pushed open the glass door and stepped onto the platform. "Hello," Linzai Asu greeted her. "Hello," the girl also replied. "We have met on the high-speed train." "Yes, it's a bit of a coincidence, huh?" The girl walked over, still with her head down. "This is what they call fate bringing people together from miles apart," Linzai Asu said. "Have a seat, let me treat you to a cup of tea." This. Linzai Asu raised his hand slightly and gestured to a Tibetan girl 10 meters away. "2 green teas, thanks." The girl's cheeks turned red. She tried to protest a bit, but since the handsome guy had already ordered the tea, she gave up resisting. She took a seat next to the tea table. "Sir, would you like some sunflower seeds and fruits?" The Tibetan girl, holding 2 cups of green tea, came to the tea table. "Please bring some." "Okay, soon," Several snacks were served on the tea table. Lin Zaiasu picked up his teacup. Are you all from Nanjing University? Yes. I heard you talking about going into the mountains. Yes, you. Are you here for a trip? The girl finally asked her first question. I'm also planning to enter the mountains. The girl was a bit surprised. You're going into the mountains alone? Yes. That's not safe, it's too risky. You should form a team to enter the mountains. It can be dangerous in there. Can I join your team then? Lin Zaiasu asked. The girl hesitated for a moment and then gently shook her head. I'm afraid not. We are here on a research mission. It's not suitable to team up with outsiders. Why must you go into the mountains? Let me be honest, my girlfriend has been afflicted with a mysterious toxin, and I am seeking the legendary Jade fruit. The girl said, stricken by a mysterious toxin, can't modern medicine treat her? If there was a way with modern medicine, why would I need to take the risk to enter the mountains? I've been studying these mountain ranges for half a year now, and from the information that has come out, there are at least 3 things that could work against my girlfriend's toxin: Jade fruit, holy branch dew, and water spirit ice heart. Holy branch dew and water spirit ice heart are far away above the glaciers, but Jade fruit might appear in the temple. You even know about the temple, the girl's eyes sparkled. Yes, I know there are 3 pathways to enter the temple. The most accessible one has 3 barriers and none are easy. If I were to go alone, it would indeed be perilous. Although I once told little Yi I could die for her, if I actually died, what would she do? The girl slowly looked up. Your girlfriend is called Little Yi. Yes, despite being afflicted by a mysterious toxin and plunged into an eternal night, she is still the brightest lamp in my sky. The romantic charm in her eyes seemed to flutter, evidently touched by this romantic sentiment. Finally she exhaled softly. Can I discuss this with the professor? Thank you. The girl stood up, went into a room on the 2nd floor, and consulted with Professor Yin. As soon as she started to speak, Professor Yin frowned, instinctively wanting to reject the idea. However, when the girl relayed everything Lin Zaiasu had said, the professor was silent for a long time. He has actually studied these mountains for half a year and knows so much. Yes, a man deeply in love, willing to endure any hardship to save his beloved, the girl dreamily responded. Agree to it then. He can come along, but he must follow our arrangements throughout the journey. With the professor's words, the girl's heart bloomed. She was different from the professor. The professor was concerned about whether an additional person would help or hinder their objectives, while her thoughts were on whether there was a way to help this infatuated man achieve his purpose. His story of romance was too beautiful, so beautiful that no woman could remain unmoved. The girlfriend stricken with a toxin plunged into eternal night, and he, ready to sacrifice his life to pluck a star for her from the vast night sky. Such a devoted man, she wondered if she would ever encounter one in her lifetime. But to contribute to such a beautiful love story was something she was willing to do. What she absolutely could not foresee was that Lin Zaiasu had fabricated the entire story. The story's sweetness was quite high. In fact, the sweetness was just an appearance. What it truly contained was not just sugar. More so, it was high-level information, psychology, and even strategic skills. Indeed, stepping onto this path, Lin Zaiasu strategically began to gamble, competing with unseen opponents. Kun Kang was mysterious. Blindly stepping into the forbidden lands of Kun Kang was dangerous. So if he's got a brain, he'd better not think about entering Mian Road alone. Otherwise, he would be like a fly entering the invisible net of the opponent, bumping around under the eyes of the opponent and within their predictions. This is the biggest taboo in playing a game against a mysterious opponent. The best way is to form a team, using others to draw Kun Kang's attention, while he, as an observer, slowly peels off Kun Kang's outer layer. This is a display of strategic skills. What about the high-end information? It's embodied in the few words he just said. Jade fruit, holy branch dew, water spirit ice heart, temple, 3 passages, 3 checkpoints. These include folk legends and Qianlong information. As long as he throws these out, his statement about researching this mountain area for half a year is fully corroborated. He is a Mian expert. So where does psychology come into play? He believes that as long as he throws out these things, Professor Yin will agree to let him join the expedition. Because everyone knows that entering the mountain is dangerous. Having someone who has researched these mountains to this extent join the adventure team is a good thing. Indeed, when the girl stepped onto the platform again, she told him. The professor agreed. Lin Ziyasu smiled. What is your name? My name is Dawa. Are you from the Tibetan clan? Dawa in Tibetan means moon, a name many women like to use. Menyu, what's your name? Just call me Brother Su. I feel like you might not be older than me. It's just that I have a small frame. Actually, I'm not young, really. The two started to get familiar with each other. Lin Ziyasu asked about their goal for entering the mountain. Dawa told him. Since now they were sure they would form a team to enter the mountain, there was no need to conceal their objective from him. Their target was also the temple. But unlike what Lin Ziyasu wanted to obtain, what they needed was a peculiar flower called Bodhi Beyond, which once appeared in southern border and some petals of which had ended up in the laboratory of Nanjiang University. Professor Yin tested it and was amazed to find that the flower contained a legendary gene of reverse growth. This kind of gene was unheard of, and if deciphered, would revolutionize human life sciences. Unfortunately, it was only a petal, and the gene within it was incomplete. Therefore, he brought his 4 graduate students into the mountains, hoping to obtain a complete Bodhi Beyond. 4 graduate students, Lin Ziyasu frowned slightly. It seems like there are 5 of you. That Mr. Hu is not a graduate student, he is the guide. A guide, a Mr. Hu, which one? That one, Dawa lightly pointed in a direction with her mouth. Lin Ziyasu lifted his eyes and saw the pretty handsome man, who was currently at the edge of the platform, having an animated conversation with a female tourist, with bits of conversation reaching his ears, leaving Lin Ziyasu somewhat speechless. Because this Mr. Hu was already discussing with the female tourist the question of whether one should expect a romantic encounter when traveling. His attitude was very clear. In this life, one only has a dozen or so years to indulge in desires freely. Why suppress oneself? Embracing nature is true liberty. How about it? Shall we delve deep into life tonight? The female tourist giggled, without committing one way or the other. This guide sure can boast. He actively involved himself and said that as long as he was part of it, eternal heaven would protect the team, and I don't know why the professor believed his nonsense and really agreed to have him as a guide. I think he actually came for Li Sissy. Dawa looked disapprovingly at little Hu. The Li Sissy she mentioned is another beauty in the team, elegantly beautiful, walking a different path from hers. This kind of beauty can indeed attract flies. Guide Hu is probably such a fly. Just like his style of seizing opportunities to discuss life with female tourists, very typical. However, all this, in Lin Ziyasu's view, wasn't so simple. Every person in this team was extraordinary. Eventually, little Hu exchanged contact information with the female tourist and went back to his room excitedly. But when Lin Ziyasu and Dawa were having their second cup of tea, he came out and came straight to Lin Ziyasu. Hi, he slapped Lin Ziyasu on the shoulder. Buddy, are we teammates now? Lin Ziyasu looked up at this relatively handsome face and nodded lightly. It seems so. What's the point in drinking this bland tea? Let me treat you to a drink. He sat down on a chair nearby, pulling out a big sheepskin bag which, based on its appearance, seemed like a family heirloom and was somehow related to his grandfather. Dawa frowned a bit and moved her chair quietly slightly away from little Hu. Lin Ziyasu said, why the offer to drink? 2 reasons. The first is, I'm the handsomest in the team and you're the second. When the handsomest and second handsomest meet, we should drink one as a testament that the handsome way is not lonely, said little Hu. Lin Ziyasu couldn't help but smile. And the second reason? The second reason is, how did you manage to talk with Dawa for so long? The whole team knows Dawa's words never exceed 1 syllable, apart from okay, no, she has nothing else. And now she's actually chatting with you lively. This seduction skill I have to learn from you. Chapter 170, Wuxiang Temple. Flattery, flattery, little Hu, you're too modest. You can go from being complete strangers with a female tourist to having a deep conversation about life in just the time it takes to drink half a cup of tea. You don't need to learn from anyone, Lin Ziyasu said. Half a cup of tea is not my best record and it's not worth showing off. Plus, stop calling me little Hu, I'm older than you, call me Brother Buddha, he replied. Brother Buddha or Brother Hu? Lin Ziyasu wasn't quite sure she heard correctly. Brother Buddha, my name is Hu Fu, little Hu said. As my name suggests, I radiate the glow of Buddha nature from within. You should be able to feel it. Lin Zaiasu looked at Dawa in a daze. Can you feel his Buddha nature? Dawa shook her head. If she hadn't been polite, she could have dismissed it with a direct and singular truth with one word. Bullshit. But she was a lady, so she didn't say a word. Hu Fu looked around, then opened that ancient sheepskin bag. Let's have a few drinks. After enough drinks, you might be able to see it. Even if I drink until my head feels twice its size, I definitely won't see any connection between you and Buddha. Buddha said, follow your natural instincts. It's the ultimate truth of heaven and earth, Hu Fu proclaimed. Which Buddha said that? Lin Zaiasu asked. Hu Fu pointed at his own nose. I did. My name is Hu Fu. Damn. Suddenly, the glass door was pushed open, and a gracefully charming woman walked out. She was the conventional beauty in the team, Li Sissy. Li Sissy came to their table and grabbed the wine pot that Hu Fu had opened. No drinking. Really? Hu Fu's eyes widened in disbelief. You're telling me not to drink? Lin Zaiasu and Dawa were also surprised. In the ordinary world, girlfriends forbidding their boyfriends from drinking is nothing unusual. But Li Sissy, facing Hu Fu's bad intentions, hadn't she always been dismissive? Now she stands up, stopping him from drinking. Li Sissy said, the professor said that we have to go to Wuxiang Temple early tomorrow morning to ask for peace incense. If you drink and get drunk, you'll reek of alcohol the next day. How can you enter the temple to ask for incense then? Hu Fu said, I've already talked to the professor with me here, bathed in the glow of Buddha nature. Do we still need to ask for peace incense? Li Sissy stared coldly at him. If you insist on drinking, if you go out philandering tonight, the professor was very clear, you can just get lost. And just so you know, as a guide, you're not irreplaceable. The new member we just brought into the team, little Sue here, might be more suitable for the guide duty than you. Hu Fu raised his hand and smacked his forehead, then tightened up the bag. Li Sissy turned and went back to her room. Hu Fu glanced at the glass door and then turned his gaze to Lin Zaiasu. What does she mean by not wanting me to go philandering tonight? Lin Zaiasu curled her lips. My judgment might be a little different from the blueprint you've sketched in your heart. What do you mean? Lin Zaiasu said. She probably didn't stop you because she's into you and doesn't want you to have your flings while traveling. She's simply concerned that if you spend a night fooling around, you'll carry the scent of the mortal world on you, and it would be disrespectful to enter the temple. A voice came from the side. Lin Zaiasu and Hu Fu turned to see the previously invisible Dawa. For the first time, she took the initiative to speak, answering Lin Zaiasu's judgment with a classic, concise, one-word response. Because in her heart, she really looked down on Hu Fu. The guy's head was filled with thoughts of wine, women, and wealth. Li Sissy forbade him from philandering at night, and he had already cooked up a blueprint in his mind, thinking it was Li Sissy's special constraint on him. Lin Zaiasu's words brought him back to reality. You drink tonight, tomorrow your body will reek of alcohol. If you consort with prostitutes tonight, you will carry the stench of filth as well. Neither is appropriate for entering a temple. Without entering the temple, you can't ask for incense. Why must you absolutely ask for that peace incense? Comforting oneself mentally is only secondary. The real reason is that the incense is actually effective. Mian Road is teeming with poisonous snakes. They are hard to guard against. The peace incense from Wuxiang Temple contains the bone powder of Kunlun Divine Eagle, which is the nemesis of mountain snakes. If they sense its presence, they dare not move rashly. Therefore, this peace incense is not just a spiritual consolation from Buddhism, but an essential item for mountain expedition. All of this, Lin Zaiasu had found from the documentation. If you're willing to search along the Mian Road and search appropriately, and have enough sources of information, you can always find some. Regarding this ancient temple, Lin Zaiasu had also found a heap of information. Looking at the name, Wuxiang Temple is a standard Han temple. Tibetan temples usually don't have such names, and Tibetan Buddha is quite different from Han Buddha. Tibetan Buddha, which holds nature in high esteem and even has dual cultivation of joyous Buddha, clearly has fewer restrictions, but Han temples are standard in forbidding alcohol and sex. Wuxiang Temple is a Han Buddha temple. You have to follow the rules of Han Buddha, even if it's built at the foot of Kunlun Mountain. That night, Hu Fu shared a room with Lin Zaiasu. Hu Fu kept checking his phone, then his sheepskin bag, betraying the wild monkeys in his heart. Lin Zaiasu was watching short videos and paid no attention to him. Hu Fu seemed to make a great resolution, and deleted that contact he had just added on his phone. After deleting it, he stopped obsessing. Lin Zaiasu caught this from the corner of her eye, and a smile formed on her lips. Is your name really Fu? Yeah. You really are a contrast to your name, aren't you? Hu Fu replied, you're just a common mortal, you can't see through the true essence of Buddha, that's why you have such doubts. Oh, care to explain the deep meaning behind your name? Lin Zaiasu became interested. Hu Fu talked about it. Indeed, it was profound, going back all the way to his infancy. His dad was a Han person who committed a crime in the Han land and fled to Tibet, where he relentlessly pursued a Tibetan girl. Unable to resist his advances, she became his mother. When he was born, the Tibetan girl continued the ancient custom of Tibet and wrapped him in a piece of sheepskin felt, leaving him by the Sang River. Note: in this bizarre tradition, a newborn is supposed to receive blessings from eternal heaven. How to test for it? Simple. Leave the newborn by the river to spend a night alone. If the child freezes to death or gets eaten by wild beasts, it's clear they weren't blessed. If the child is still alive the next day at dawn, very good. They've received the blessings of eternal heaven and can be raised with peace of mind. He received the blessings of eternal heaven and survived. This was quite normal for the area. But his dad almost had a heart attack when he learned what his mom had done. The next day, when his dad found him, he knelt down and named him Hu Fu. From that day on, this man, who had committed grave sins in the Han land and had never had an ounce of Buddhism in his heart, began to believe in Buddha. Such was a rare tale through the ages. Therefore, the Buddha, in Hu Fu's name, has been different from the start. It carried the compassion of Han Buddha, the freedom of Tibetan Buddha, and his dad's utterly unthinkable change in character. To put it briefly in a word, Hu Fu's Buddha is capable of anything. With Buddha in the heart, there shines the Buddha light. After hearing his story, Lin Zaiasu glanced at him sidelong. So this is your reason for seducing female tourists on your travels? Yeah, they journey alone, along the long roads, their souls lonely, their bodies empty. I, as a compassionate Buddha, provide comfort. Who's to say it's not a great act of love and celestial light? F_*CK me. Lin Zaiasu just went asleep. The next day was clear and sunny. The group left the hotel, walked down the clean and orderly streets of Huixian town, and made their way to Wuxiang Temple. Wuxiang Temple was on the northwest slope of the town, built along the mountainside. Atop the slope, beneath an ancient bodhi tree, was the temple gate. The temple's sign was Wuxiang Temple, written in standard Chinese characters, round and gentle, with an antique charm. What was different from the usual temples was an additional line of Tibetan script underneath, as a nod to the locals. Stepping inside, one saw the usual sights of a Han land Buddhist temple. Blue stone paved the way, leading to temple buildings. The temple buildings exposed only a small section to the sunlight. The deeper parts extended into the mountain itself. The Buddhist statues were carved out of the mountain's rock right where they stood, less three-dimensional than typical statues, adding 7 parts of mystery. Rather than calling them statues, it would be more accurate to say they are carvings of Buddha. The Buddhas were very ancient, and this kind of age could not be faked because small trees were growing from the statues. Bellas and grass was sprouting from the seams of their robes. An old monk sat cross-legged in front of the largest Buddha. A novice monk was hitting the wooden fish. The old monk was very authentically old, and the novice monk very authentically young. With a tiny shaven head, tiny hands, bright, sparkling eyes, and a protruding belly. He looked to be about 12 or 13. Amitabha, with that holy chant, a ruddy-faced monk entered. The monk faced Lin Zaiasu and his group, pressing his palms together. Honorable benefactors, what do you seek? We seek to obtain incense for a safe mountain journey. Professor Yin also joined his hands in return. Procuring peace incense is not easy. A small donation of incense oil to worship the Buddha is necessary, said the ruddy-faced monk. That'll be 980 each. Can we pay by scanning? Li Sisi eyed a QR code in front of her. All paths lead to the Buddhist gates. Of course you can. Beep. Electronic chimes sounded within the temple hall. Payment of 4,900 yuan. This electronic sound seemed especially lingering as it echoed through the temple. Lin Zaiasu suddenly felt like she was ordering in a worldly diner instead of a temple and exchanged a look with Hu Fu. Both pulled out their phones and scanned the code simultaneously. Li Sisi only scanned for 5 people. The 2 of them, they'd take care of themselves. After scanning, theoretically, They should be able to straightforwardly collect the incense. But temple rules still had to be followed. One must bow. Aligning with the principle of, when in Rome, do as the Romans do, Lin Zaiasu swiftly paid her respects. Hufu, cursing under his breath, Lin Zaiasu, standing close, heard him clear as day. The gist was that if you're going to do business, just do business, not drag along a bunch of damned ceremonial nonsense. The monks certainly heard him too, but they chose to ignore it. Lin Zaiasu glanced over the Buddha reliefs and still asked a question. Master, these statues half emerging from the mountainside, is there a particular reason? Amitabha, half an empty gate, half in the world, in each leaf, in each branch, Bodhi is witnessed. The ruddy-faced master Hong Guang, now further flushed with the assemblance of nearly 7,000 yuan, chanted with even louder fervor. Isn't it just to save money? The words came from Hu Fu's mouth. This kid's remark shattered the mystical Buddhist realm that Master Hong Guang had crafted. Even if the comment was very objective, it was hardly appropriate for the moment. Cough, Professor Yin intervened. Master just mentioned Bodhi. Do you know about the temple's Bodhi beyond? Now we were getting to the heart of the matter. Chapter 171. Chapter 171. The mystery behind the painting's name. Bodhi beyond was their ultimate goal. The gene of reverse growth, too compelling, especially for biological engineering researchers. Master Hong Guang placed his palms together. Bodhi beyond, born in the land of countless tribulations, blooms thanks to the heavenly light of Buddhism. As you set out, mere Buddhist incense is not enough. You need my Buddha to accompany you. Everyone was taken aback. Li Sisi said, Does Master mean to accompany us on the road personally? Master Hong Guang gently shook his head. Amitabha, my own Buddhist fate is insufficient. I cannot see the heavenly light of Buddhism, understand. Uncle Master, the little monk who was knocking on the wooden fish bowed with his hands clasped. You will join the 7 benefactors on the road. Yes, the little monk came forward, reached Professor Yin's side, looking up with his bright head. Brother Buddha's eyes widened. Master, you're taking this child on the road. Yes, Master Hong Guang responded. This, Brother Buddha's gaze flickered. Let's make it clear, the path is difficult. I struggle to walk empty-handed, let alone carrying a child. He definitely didn't say the little monk was a burden, but wasn't the implication clear to everyone? Master Hong Guang chose to misunderstand, turning to Professor Yin. Benefactor, Liao Ran is still young in cultivation. Just 5,000 incense money will suffice for him to accompany the benefactor through tribulations. Damn, even asking for money. Lin Zaiasu exchanged a look with Brother Buddha, arms crossed as spectators. Whether to take the child or not, it wasn't their decision to make. Anyway, one thing's clear. We definitely won't carry him on the road. We won't soothe him if he cries, and definitely won't wash diapers. Of course, the issue of money wasn't for them to handle. Professor Yin pondered for a long time before finally nodding. With that nod, a beep, the sound of a transaction echoed through the temple. Brother Buddha pulled Lin Zaiasu and sprinted out of the temple. Once outside, he looked up, his face showing reluctance. Can I ask you something? Go ahead. Are people inside that ivory tower particularly easy to deceive? Maybe, since they haven't seen much of the world's evils. Lin Zaiasu responded nonchalantly, his gaze towards the mountains outside. Suddenly, his heart skipped a beat. The mountains before him matched perfectly with the painting in his mind. That painting, left by Ding Ruoshui. The painting had a road, the Million Road. If the painting was named Road, it would be easy to understand. But the painting wasn't called Road, it was named Window. Why window then? If the focal point is on the window, where does this window open? Now he knew. Following the route on the painting, the location of that window in the painting was this ancient temple. The painting wasn't just content, actually it was also about perspective. Is that the only pack you're carrying? A pleasing voice rang out. Lin Zaiasu turned to see Li Sisi. This was their first conversation. Yes, said Lin Zaiasu. Where's your tent? Asked Li Sisi. Actually, I can squeeze in with Brother Buddha, said Lin Zaiasu. Brother Buddha's eyes bulged. Li Sisi frowned. It doesn't look like you have any food in there. Lin Zaiasu looked at Brother Buddha, who immediately spoke. You wouldn't think of hitting on my supplies too, would you? Lin Zaiasu's gaze slid from his face to the little monk. Little master, it seems you didn't bring any food either. "The poor monk is a monk," the little monk told him. "My master said when monks go out, they primarily rely on alms." Everyone present was dumbfounded. What kind of people are these? Professor Yin shook his head lightly. "Let's head back once to the town to gather some supplies." If it were just Lin Zaiasu alone, he really wouldn't need to gather supplies. At this moment, transitioning from summer to autumn, although the mountain nights were a bit cold, did it matter to an ancient martial cultivator? As for food, be it flying in the sky, running on the ground, burrowing into the earth, what couldn't be eaten? Just bring some salt, some sauce. 3 meals a day, all could be barbecue. Besides, didn't he have space? Inside it, there were already piles of supplies. However, little monk Liao Ran's appearance meant the team had to return because a monk's essence is to beg for alms. But whom could he ask on the Mian road? Beasts in the mountains won't be of help, only the companions could. Rather than deal with tight supplies later, better to prepare adequately from the start. As the saying goes, sharpening your axe will not delay the chopping of firewood. Fortunately, it was only about a 10-minute walk from Wuxiang Temple to the town. Under Brother Buddha's intense gaze, Lin Zaiasu, too, ended up buying a pile of items. A simple tent, a cold-resistant blanket, compressed biscuits, emergency drinking water. Generally, there's no need to bring water, but aren't the conditions unusual? On Mian Road, no one knows whether the apparently clear water is safe to drink. At noon, the main team officially hit the road. When setting off, the fog on the Mian Road cleared up, leaving the trumpet-shaped valley exceptionally vacant. The head of little monk Liao Ran shone brightly under the noon sun. Could this be the Buddhist incense? If you ask a believer of Buddhism, the answer would definitely be yes. But if you ask Brother Buddha with his usual antics, he would definitely say, the Buddhist incense is not reflected by how bright the head shines, but is embodied through the spirit, for example, comforting the boundless love of single women on the journey. However, one thing is certain, this little monk is unlikely to become a burden to everyone, as although he is small, his strides are light and quick. Conversely, the 2 male graduate students, having walked less than 5 miles into the mountain, were already out of breath and frequently pushing up their glasses. Why push them? Their nose bridges were sweaty, causing their glasses to slip down. There are signs that students from the ivory tower have rather poor physical fitness. Yet only these 2 were in poor physical condition. Professor Yin walked with stable strides and always kept his back straight. Brother Buddha swung a large bag in his hand, while chatting merrily with Lin Zaiasu, even finding the mood to comment on the little monk's head. Li Sissy, walking this mountain path, was almost like walking a model's strut on the T-stage. And Dawa, still walking with her head down and a slight blush on her face, but she was always like this. The 5-mile mountain road had no effect on her. This was where the team was extraordinary. Lin Zaiasu clearly sensed that Professor Yin and Li Sissy were genetic people. Being able to sense genetic people up close was an ability he had only acquired in the past month, first proven in the inn on Wushan Mountain and with Hu Dai. Now he was able to sense very clearly. Brother Buddha was not a genetic person, but he had a true chi flow within him. The most bizarre was Dawa. Lin Zaiasu felt she wasn't a genetic person and couldn't sense any true chi flow from her, but she gave him a very dangerous feeling. This feeling was purely a sixth sense. A team with 4 special individuals. This was the real reason Lin Zaiasu chose this team. To achieve the objective of hiding himself, he needed others to share the focus of attention from Kun Kang. Ordinary people couldn't achieve this effect, only this mixed team could. However, this matter itself was dual-natured. He did not know who these people were. If they were from the 9-headed snake, entering the mountain with them would be tremendously dangerous, as once his identity was exposed, his past cause with the 9-headed snake would yield a rather sour fruit in Kunlun Mountain. Right, there was also little monk Liao Ran. Lin Zaiasu had been observing this little monk too. He couldn't sense anything unusual about him, but after decrypting the painting by Ding Ruishui, which revealed that the window in the painting was at the Wuxiang Temple, he changed his understanding of the Wuxiang Temple. This little monk came from Wuxiang Temple, and considering a child his age, Master Han Guang wouldn't have allowed him to leave if he was simple, especially to enter the perilous Mian Road. The trumpet mouth was complete, now the trumpet was closing up. How did it close? 2 stone mountains converged in the middle, forming a natural cave. Looking through the cave entrance, There was light from another opening on the opposite side, but quite distant, visibly at least a kilometer away. A strong wind blew from the cave, at least 4 to 5 degrees cooler than the outside. Little monk Liao Ran spoke, Amitabha, let's light incense. Everyone lit their incense, and the fragrance wafted into the cave. Upon entering the cave, Lin Zaiasu saw the bats hanging on the cave walls and also saw snakes in the crevices. The bats were a size larger than usual, and the snakes, though not large, were diverse in species. The incense curled up, and the bats moved deeper into the cave walls. The snakes slowly retracted their heads back into the crevices. That was the effect of the incense. The group successfully passed through the gap between the snakes and bats and through the cave. Brother Buddha unusually commented fairly. Although this incense isn't cheap, and it seems like a ripoff, it must be said, it's quite worth it. Yes, everyone agreed. If not for the incense, not to say there was danger, but just dealing with a bunch of venomous snakes and bats in the cave would be disgusting, wouldn't it? Yuan for a clean and refreshed experience. The little monk liked this, joyfully chanting Amitabha, and added a reminder, benefactors, keep the unburnt incense. It will be needed on the way back. Lin Zaiasu extinguished his incense, and with a flip of his hand, he stuffed it into his bag, his gaze lifting in admiration. The previous cave was disgusting, but this valley was quite beautiful. The valley was filled with exotic flowers and plants, like a paradise. Brother Buddha took a step forward. Little monk Liao Ran has had his turn. Now it's time for this guide to take the stage. What does everyone think about this valley? Everyone's eyes gathered on his face. No one answered his question. Brother Buddha said, it's pretty right. But as the saying goes, the prettier things are, the more dangerous they are, just like how beauties cause calamities. Li Sissy glared at him, seemingly wanting to ask, why when you speak of beauties causing calamities, are you staring at me? But she didn't forget that this jerk was always hitting on her, so she reduced the frequency of dialogues with him, while the professor couldn't help but ask, where is the danger? Brother Buddha said, there's a kind of butterfly on the Mian road called snake butterfly, which seems light but is extremely toxic. Everyone had better get their masks and gloves ready. As his voice fell, suddenly dozens of butterflies flitted up from the flowers in front. These butterflies, unlike any seen before, had colorful patterns painted on their bodies, which outlined the figure of a rearing poisonous snake. Put on your masks and gloves, the professor immediately ordered. In a blink of an eye, 5 members of his team all had their gear on. Their masks, made of plastic, extended around their necks and were filled with numerous vent holes. Their gloves gleamed silver, likely made of metal. Matched with their hiking gear, they became outsiders marveled by little bugs. However, 3 people didn't have such equipment. Chapter 172. Chapter 172. Butterfly Transformation, Wolf Attack. Hufu, Lin Zaiasu, and little monk Liao Ran. It was unclear whether little monk Liao Ran's calmness stemmed from his youthful age and ignorance of fear or something else, but he was not panicking at all. He took an incense stick out of his alms bag and lit it directly with a windproof lighter. This incense was different from the one before. It was entirely black. Once lit, a stream of black smoke rose from the tip of the incense, enveloping his little head. Several butterflies fluttered towards him, but as soon as they touched the black smoke, they tumbled away in retreat. Hufu's eyes lit up. Little Baldy, can you give us one of your incense sticks? Amitabha, my master said we monks only receive alms. We cannot be benefactors. Damn it, you monks are supposed to be compassionate and now you're watching us die without helping. Hufu was furious. Is the benefactor going to die? Asked Liao Ran, his voice crisp amid the swirling dust. You think you can see me die, old Hu? You're too early. Hufu extended his hand and a folding fan appeared in it. With a gentle flick, the butterflies that had flown to his front were sent tumbling away. Li Sissy's eyes shone. This move was very cool. Lin Zaiasu's eyes also gleamed faintly. The flick of the fan fit his flirtatious manner quite well. Indeed, it was cool, but was it just cool? He faintly saw that the fan created layers upon layers of airflow, like 1,000 rolling waves. What kind of cultivation technique was this? It was rather extraordinary. A voice from behind them warned, Brother Su, be careful. It was Dawa's voice. Before the voice fell, there was a light sound, and a vast sphere of butterflies appeared next to Lin Zaiasu, with hundreds of butterflies surrounding him. Hufu yelled, Little Baldy, it seems I won't die anytime soon, but Brother Su seems to be in trouble. Is your incense really? With a whoosh, Lin Zaiasu moved his feet and leaped over the flower bed in front of him. Hundreds of butterflies fluttered amidst the flowers, not even brushing the hem of his garment. Not bad, Brother Su. Hu Fu laughed out loud, but his laughter stopped abruptly. This was because, almost in an instant, the entire valley was densely covered with butterflies. At first there were a dozen or so, then a climax occurred around Lin Zaiasu with hundreds all at once, and now the whole valley was filled with them, possibly in the tens of thousands. Move quickly through, Professor Yin shouted loudly and started running. The four people beside him also started running together. Since they all wore masks and gloves, the butterflies could not come into contact with their skin. As they ran, bushes scattered, butterflies scattered, and the scene became instantly chaotic. Little Baldy also dashed off, with a cloud of black smoke above his head. With the folding fan in Hu Fu's hand, Lin Zaiasu witnessed the true power of the fan. Layers of airflow filled the space, and the butterflies around him were completely cleared away. Lin Zaiasu, however, had neither exotic incense nor a folding fan. All he had was his movement technique. Relying solely on his movement technique, he wove in and out among countless butterflies, always spotting the breakthrough. When there was no breaking through, his hand would move and he'd pull off a leafy branch, sweeping away the butterflies like a broom. The journey was exceedingly perilous, but of course it only appeared so. To Lin Zaiasu, this was merely child's play. His rejuvenation skill was most proficient at detoxifying. These butterflies posed no lethal threat to him. But to avoid standing out too much, he still chose to dodge their sharp edges, even if it meant exposing his skills, because beginning this path, his skills would ultimately have to be revealed. Because it wasn't genuinely perilous, he had the leisure to pay attention to his companions. Professor Yin, at the age of 50, was leading at the front. Li Sisi, with her frail feminine frame, easily crossed a deep ditch in front of her, already affirming their status as genetic people. Dawa, who seemed to have the least presence, garnered the most attention from Lin Zaiasu. She was truly amazing. Trees would fall wherever the butterflies approached her, and they would die upon falling to the ground. With his heavenly Tao wisdom eye discerning the minutest details, Lin Zaiasu could not detect any sign of her making a move. Could this be the legendary realm? Entering her domain, one dies instantly. The butterflies died upon entry, but what about people? About half an hour later, they burst out of the valley, and ahead of them was a cliff. The butterflies finally stopped chasing. The two graduate students sat down on the ground with pale faces and sweat pouring down behind their masks. But the situation for little monk Liao Ran was entirely different. His head was black, uniformly black, as if he were a porcelain monk sprinkled evenly with black ash. He extinguished the incense in his hand, looking cheerfully at everyone with his teeth shining white, looking a bit like a black man. What's with your incense that it turned you like this? Hu Fu was very interested in the little monk's incense. Indeed, the incense was very peculiar. Once lit, the butterflies stayed away, the mountain breeze didn't scatter it, and the black smoke cloaked his head. In just half an hour, it had smoked him into looking like a black man. It's nothing, Liao Ran wiped his face. With this wipe, everyone laughed. His face, no longer uniformly black, was now a smudged mess. I'm asking if you're okay. What I'm asking is, Hu Fu's words halted once again. He suddenly looked up. So did Lin Zaiasu. Whoosh! A gust of mountain wind rose, and more than a dozen dark figures leaped down from the hillside, revealing themselves to be wolves. Kill, Professor Yin shouted, catching a wolf by its front leg and tossing it gently, sending the wolf tumbling down the cliff. Li Sisi gave a small kick, and a wolf that had pounced towards her thundered away, falling into the valley. The two graduate students by her side were just rubbing their eyes when they suddenly saw the dark shadows flying all over, almost dropping their glasses. Just when a wolf's claws were about to touch one of the graduate students, a bare hand appeared out of nowhere and lightly patted the wolf's forehead. There was no sound, no vibration, and the wolf fell silently to the ground. Lin Zaiasu's hand moved, and his dagger sliced through the air, sending a wolf's head flying. His heavenly Tao wisdom eye pierced through the chaotic battlefield, firmly locking onto the wolf carcass that died at Dawa's hands. It seemed like an illusion, but he felt the wolf had suddenly become much thinner. Its eyes were wide open, devoid of any life force. The wolf died in an instant, but its death under her hand seemed to traverse through an extended period of time. His heart trembled uncontrollably. What kind of cultivation technique was this? It could apparently extract the life force of a living being in an instant. With a light flick of his foot, the wolf carcass he was focused on tumbled down the cliff. Dawa looked up and shouted, "Brother Su, be careful." Whoosh! Behind him, a wolf pounced out from the bushes. Lin Zaiasu did a somersault to avoid it, lifted his foot and thump. That wolf followed the others, falling off the cliff. Beside him, with the unfolding of a folding fan, a strange gust of wind swept past Lin Zaiasu's ear, and another wolf plunged down. It was Hu Fu. It had to be said, the way he made his move was somewhat cool. And the little monk, he was the coolest one. As a wolf pounced at him from behind, he actually sat down and did so very timely, allowing the wolf to fly right over his head and fall off the cliff. While he sat cross-legged, he spoke his classic 4 words, Amitabha. With Hu Fu's stylish kick, the last wolf fell off the cliff, and the wolf menace on top of the cliff was completely resolved. And down in the 100-meter-deep valley below, several dying howls of wolves could be heard. Under normal circumstances, the likelihood of wolves dying from a fall isn't high, but to disregard the height and speak of common sense would be nonsensical. 100-meter-high cliff over jagged rocks below, any creature falling down would die, except those with wings. It was not surprising that wolves died from the fall. But in Lin Zaiasu's eyes, there was a mystery. Not all these wolves died from the fall or injuries. The wolf that Dawa kicked off the cliff looked as if it had been dead for several months the moment it dropped. Li Sissy took 3 kicks, and wherever she kicked, the bones in that part would not remain intact. Professor Yin only made 2 moves, and while they seemed gentle, the bones where he grabbed must have surely broken. Hu Fu struck quite a lot, and the wolves that died at his hands were perhaps the most tragically, for his strength was very peculiar, layer upon layer, breaking the wolves' bones to pieces. Only one wolf genuinely died from the fall, the one that crossed over little monk Liao Ran's head without any injuries, its body still intact before hitting the valley floor. This was very interesting. The most interesting point was that everyone seemed to be deliberately concealing their abilities. They threw the wolves off the cliff, not seeming to want others to probe into the abnormality of the wolf carcasses, especially Dawa. The wolves were already dead, yet she still seemingly nonchalantly kicked the wolf carcass off the cliff. Thus, after an assault by more than a dozen wolves, in the end, only half a wolf carcass remained on the cliff. Oh no, just half. The wolf's head was gone, only its body remained. This was the one that died at Lin Zaiasu's hand. Probably the one with the most ordinary death. Its head was chopped off. The sky is no longer bright. Let's spend the night here, suggested Hu Fu. Professor Yin looked at the sky and nodded lightly. That seems good. Lin Zaiasu chuckled. It looks like we won't have to gnaw on compressed biscuits tonight. Instead, we'll have roasted wolf meat. Li Sissy laughed. I was wondering why you insisted on leaving a wolf carcass. You had this idea from the start. This is actually why I didn't care too much about preparing supplies for the mountain trek. Lin Zaiasu picked up the wolf carcass. Old Hu, shall we go clean it by the stream? Hu Fu stood up and circled around Liao Ran twice. Little monk, let's go together. Liao Ran looked at the bloody wolf carcass with his face, already tinged by smoke, turning genuinely discolored, and his eyes slammed shut. Amitabha. Hu Fu laughed heartily. We'll eat wolf meat tonight, you can go begging. If you dare to beg, we will surely give. Li Sissy and Dawa exchanged glances and shook their heads simultaneously. Li Sissy sighed softly. This Hu playboy seems a bit unfriendly towards Liao Ran. And even less friendly matters were yet to come. That evening the campfire was lit, and wolf meat was roasted. The tantalizing aroma of the meat permeated the cliff. The little monk sat alone, ate Zhang away, nibbling on compressed biscuits. He could avoid the people, and he could avoid eating, but he had to breathe. The air was filled with the fragrance of meat. Lin Zaiasu looked at the lonely figure, his gaze somewhat peculiar. Hey, don't send meat over to him. That would tempt him to break his precepts. Dawa's voice reached his ears. I think it's a bit cruel. All of us adults eating meat here while a child recites sutras over there, replied Lin Zaiasu. That's his world. Do not easily shatter someone else's world. Lin Zaiasu's gaze shifted towards her. What about you? Do you have your own world? Dawa did not answer. Her mouth was filled with wolf meat. 2 or 3 zhang away from them, Hu Fu approached Li Sissy. Sissy, do you see? Dao isn't so much like a dumb gourd anymore, she's whispering to her brother Sue. So, Lee Sissy's eyebrows raised sharply. I think we can also talk about life. Here's one word for you. Yes or okay, right? Scram. Hufu's playfulness was swept away by the mountain breeze, and he came with a moan. Sissy, can't you see that I possess the Buddha root with boundless prospects? Lee Sissy moved to the side, stood up, swiftly set up her tent, and crawled inside. Hufu attempted to see if he could enter and chat about life, but the look Lee Sissy gave him was somewhat cold. Chapter 173. Chapter 173. Ruins of the Ancient Palace. The next morning, after a night of rest, 8 people were refreshed except for 2 who were still visibly fatigued. Hufu took a bite from the leftover wolf bone from last night and dangled it in front of little monk Liao Ran's nose. The little monk sat cross-legged, his bright eyes carrying a hint of bewilderment. Upon witnessing this scene, everyone shook their heads. Early in the morning, he was tormenting the little monk again. But Hufu himself seemed oblivious to this, starting a serious conversation. We had fun gnawing on wolf meat all night last night, but everyone needs to be clear-headed. Wolves hold grudges, and today's crossing through Wolf Valley might be extraordinarily lively. Wolf Valley. Yes, that was the second checkpoint. This cliff was the boundary between Hudi Valley and Wolf Valley. The wolves that attacked them yesterday were not the main force of Wolf Valley, but more like a dozen or so scouts. After being slaughtered and roasted, their scent wafted into Wolf Valley. If the wolves there felt any anger, they probably held a war rally last night. Professor Yin looked through the morning fog towards the distant valley and nodded gently. So, no one should hold back today. Fight with all your might. We must pass through this valley before it gets dark. The temple is on the other side of the valley. Let's go, Lee Sissy shouldered her pack. A group of people descended from the cliff into Wolf Valley. Within Wolf Valley, bones were scattered everywhere. There were skeletons of large animals and even human skeletons. Some were quite fresh, indicating they had been gnawed on not long ago. However, it must be said that the flesh on these skeletons was licked clean. It was evident that the wolves in the valley were indeed very hungry. 3 li into the valley, nothing unusual occurred. But there were already lone wolves moving around the perimeter. If this were a battle, the scouts would already be in position. 5 li into the valley, there were wolves stirring behind them, and not just one group. 10 li into the valley, there was a sudden rustling in the bushes in front, and hundreds of wolves charged out at once. The fight instantly escalated to a fever pitch. Hufu, the guide at the front, was no longer using his folding fan. He was wielding a dagger, like a blade thrusting straight into the pack of wolves. Lin Zaiasu was on the left flank, also with a dagger. Lee Sissy was on the right flank. She too held a dagger in her hand. Bringing up the rear was Dawa, also armed with a dagger. The professor, little monk Liao Ran, and 2 graduate students were sandwiched in the middle. Once this formation was in place, the wolves fell injured and dead under the daggers. Lin Zaiasu knew clearly that even though the 4 main attackers were all using daggers, aside from himself, the other 3's wolf-killing methods did not primarily rely on daggers. Hufu's technique was in his palms, which, with a wave, resembled 1,000 leaves of the Bodhi tree. Lee Sissy's weapon was her legs, which at this moment were not just tools for seduction, but genuine weapons of death. The most peculiar was Dawa. She walked at the back, still projecting her usual low-key demeanor, but any wolf that came within 3 feet of her mysteriously fell down. Once down, they seemed as if they had been dead for months. Although Wolf Valley was a Shura arena, forbidden to the living, they paved their way across it. Time passed hour by hour. Finally, as the sun set in the west, they made it through the 20-li Wolf Valley, leaving a trail of wolf carcasses. Ahead lay another cliff. The 2 graduate students climbed up with difficulty and lay down on the spot, their faces as white as the dead. And little monk Liao Ran, for the first time, revealed his peculiarity. Where was the oddness? Looking back at the bloody path behind, he sat on a rock and was still able to recite Amitabha with the correct tone. Is this considered odd? Ordinarily, it would not be. But for a child to maintain a normal complexion when 2 adults have collapsed from exhaustion, being normal in such circumstances is precisely what's abnormal. Hufu opened his folding fan and leaned on the cliff to fan himself. This was his usual manner, and for the first time it earned a different glance from Lee Sissy. Yes, being able to remain so carefree after fierce battle, indeed, highlighted his extraordinary nature. And Lin Zaiasu. He showed no signs of oddity, picking up half a wolf carcass and heading for a small pool to clean it. That was their dinner for tonight. Although everyone was carrying compressed biscuits, when grilled meat was available, who would prefer to chew on tasteless biscuits? Dawa cast a sympathetic glance at little monk Liao Ran and walked to the pool in small steps to help Lin Zaiasu prepare dinner. There wasn't much room to stand by the pool, and once Dawa joined in, she got very close to Lin Zaiasu. Lin Zaiasu felt her breath. It was warm, not the least bit eerie. This was probably her everyday living breath, separate from her battle aura. This was just fine. Brother Su, we will enter the temple tomorrow. How much do you know about the Jade fruit? Dawa's voice was very gentle, audible only to Lin Zaiasu. Jade fruit. Lin Zaiasu almost forgot about it. This was the target in the story he told when he first met Dawa. His girlfriend was poisoned and needed a few things to cure the poison. Along this road, legend has it that 3 miraculous items are effective: the Jade fruit, holy branch dew, and water spirit ice heart. The latter 2 are above the ancient glaciers, beyond the reach of ordinary exploration, and shrouded with such heavy legend that their very existence is a big question mark. Therefore, he treated the Jade fruit as the only hope. This was originally just a story, a casual remark, and blending into the team, that would have been the end of it. But Dawa remembered it. On the night before entering the temple, he brought it up. Lin Zaiasu said, I only know that the Jade fruit grows in places with ancient energy. I really haven't found any other clues. Dawa said, our Tibetan texts record that the Jade fruit grows in places fated for tribulations, and also where water and fire mingle. According to this, the ice and fire twin bridge we're crossing tomorrow is the most likely place for the Jade fruit to appear. Let's all search carefully. If you find it, hurry and retrieve it before anyone else does. His voice was even softer now. Lin Zaiasu's heart stirred slightly, including the professor. Why? She was Professor Yin's research student. She naturally belonged to the professor's most loyal faction. Yet now she was being wary of her own teacher. I'm not guarding against the teacher. I just know that in the exploration process there are established rules. If they discover the Jade fruit first, the professor will certainly use it for research, and you won't get a chance. What about your girlfriend then? Yes, that's the rule of exploration. The Jade fruit was Lin Zaiasu's goal. But wasn't it the professor's goal too? As members of an exploration team traveling together, the cooperation has been good so far. However, once there's a find, there's a principle of allocation. The established method is that whoever finds it first gets the first dibs. Lin Zaiasu, as a newcomer to this team and going solo, would find it hard to get the upper hand. However, Dawa quietly stepped forward, expressing his willingness to help him with the Jade fruit issue. What was the reason? Dawa's gaze swept over the water in front of him, telling him hauntingly, the story you told was touching. I hope it can have a happy ending. In comparison, whether the professor's research yields extra findings is not that important. Have you always been this kind? Lin Zaiasu exhaled softly. Dawa's brow furrowed slightly, as if turning back into a taciturn person. Lin Zaiasu smiled. No need to answer, I know, you are. That night was without wind or waves. It was nothing more than them gnawing at meat, and the little monk savoring the wind, which seemed somewhat unkind. Yet everyone was a person of substance. For instance, the saying Dawa had once spoken made a lot of sense. Everyone has their own world, don't break it carelessly. In their view, adults eating meat while children are left to the wind seemed unkind. But from the Buddhist perspective, who's to say that isn't the world suffering and creating karma, while I alone am at ease and carefree? Yes, the little monk was rather young, and indeed when he smelled the scent of meat, he would occasionally lick his lips. But did that mean he was suffering? Perhaps what he licked was not saliva, but the worries of the world. The next morning the fog was heavy. It seemed very quiet within the fog. Lin Zaiasu had a strange feeling as if with every step they took, they drifted one step further from the real world. The surrounding scenery grew more and more bizarre. Until ahead, a stone bridge spanned across the sky, and a rare spectacle unseen in the world appeared before their eyes. This stone bridge wasn't really a bridge, but a mountain ridge. The ridge was masterfully crafted, as if made by immortals. To its left, a red glow shimmered, a volcano with rolling red magma and the air filled with a strong sulfur smell, bringing with it a wave of heat. To its right, there was a pool of greenish water, as if the chill from the ancient glaciers was also rolling in. Lin Zaiyasu clearly saw that on the edge of the mountain to the right, it was sparkling with countless ice pillars, a natural marvel of creation. A mountain divided into two seasons. That happens, but as clearly divided as this, with extreme heat on one side and extreme cold on the other. Where else in the world could you see this? Professor Yin scrutinized the mountain ridge ahead, his expression grave. Where extreme cold and heat meet, the Earth's energy manifests as an array. Be careful when crossing the ridge. It's easy to lose direction. Lin Zaiasu's heart trembled slightly. Array? He finally encountered the concept of array for the first time in the mortal world. Could extreme cold and heat really form an array? It sounded fantastical, but scientifically it could make sense. The so-called array is about moving the Earth's energy. And with the interweaving of extreme cold and heat, isn't it the same as moving the Earth's energy? This mountain ridge is known as the Ice and Fire Natural Bridge. Its greatest danger lies not in the volcano or ice lake, but in the fog created by the merging of ice and fire. One careless step, and if separated from the main troop, you might be trapped forever by the ever-present mist on this ridge. And this mist is no ordinary one. It is a volcanic toxic mist. Prolonged inhalation can cause fainting and dizziness, eventually leading to either freezing to death in the ice lake or falling into the volcano, leaving no ashes behind. This is the gateway to the temple. It is also the key to maintaining the temple's mystique. Without a compelling reason to cross, who would willingly traverse this unpredictable area? And today, it was evidently necessary to cross. Chapter 174. Chapter 174. The new function of the heavenly Tao Wisdom Eye. Professor Yin gave his final instruction. Everyone, maintain even breathing while crossing the bridge. Don't gasp all at once and faint. At the same time, keep a close eye on the person in front of you and don't lose them. Do not look around aimlessly and try to get through as quickly as possible. Go. Hufu led the way, followed by the professor, then two graduate students, then the little monk, and then Li Sisi. Lin Zaiyasu and Dawa walked side by side at the end. As they stepped onto the mountain ridge, a gust of wind blew, and the fog in front of them suddenly thickened tenfold. Lin Zaiyasu was startled. This was not normal. From the outside, although there was fog in this area, it was not so dense. There was no reason for the fog to intensify on its own once they entered. Could this be the array that the professor mentioned? His heavenly Tao Wisdom Eye opened. As soon as the eye opened, a marvel appeared. He clearly saw a faint golden glow in the air. This circle covered the sky and also the ground behind them, which was the stream of air formed by the intense heat of the volcano mingling with the extreme cold of the ice pool. Array patterns. These are the array patterns recorded in the Taoist book. The Taoist book states, arrays are invisible and their patterns cannot be seen. However, his heavenly Tao Wisdom Eye could indeed see the interwoven array patterns. Did the heavenly Tao Wisdom Eye overturn the Taoist book? Brother Su, I can only see about 3 to 4 meters ahead of me. I can't find what you're looking for. Dawa's voice came from beside him. Very light. This was their agreement from last night. They came together to find the Jade fruit, but upon entering this mountain ridge, Dawa realized her thoughts were misguided. She could only see things within a 3 to 4 meter radius and couldn't see any further. How could she find the Jade fruit? This matter itself is all about fate. One must simply try their best, Lin Zaiyasu said. May eternal heaven bless Brother Su to light that night lamp amidst the vast night sky. Dawa pressed her palms together in front of her chest, gently pressing. This sincere act caught Lin Zaiasu's eye, and he paused for a moment. The heavenly Tao Wisdom Eye could see the array patterns and could see every corner within the fog, but it seemed he couldn't see through this Tibetan girl in front of him. Ultimately, they did not find the Jade fruit. Of course, it might also be that Lin Zaiyasu had no intention of looking for it. Chang Yi was a badass girl, that was a fact. But could her poison be cured by the Jade fruit? Did her poison need curing? The poison itself was her foundation. Without it, she would lose her unique character. The Jade fruit was merely a prop in the story, not Lin Zaiasu's goal. After about 10 minutes, they crossed the mountain ridge. Dawa felt very disappointed. Because eternal heaven did not show a miracle, Neither did Brother Su find the Jade fruit, nor did she. But the rest were excited, because a mysterious temple was now in front of them. This temple, perched on the cliffs opposite, was in ruins, with most of it collapsed. Only a few dozen massive pillars pointed angrily at the sky, telling an unknown history that began who knows when on this cliffside. Professor, this temple, does it have some sort of significance? Lin Asu had his first conversation with the professor. And the professor answered him seriously, just as he would with his students' questions. This temple, when it appeared in ancient texts, was already in its current state. No one knows where its roots truly lie. It might be a product of an ancient civilization. Ancient civilization, Lin Asu was a bit surprised. Yes, the Earth has existed for 4.6 billion years. Our current civilization at best spans only 8,000 years. If a global nuclear explosion suddenly occurs, resulting in the extinction of civilization, how would later generations regard our civilization? They can't, because we cannot predict whether the next civilization will be human or another form of life, and our civilization may be completely disconnected from theirs. The professor's lesson was very vivid, and it made a lot of logical sense. With the Earth being 4.6 billion years old, we are used to positioning ourselves as the benchmark of civilization, viewing this world's rise and fall from our own perspective, all while ignoring the immense span of 4.6 billion years. Just like what the professor said, if a global nuclear explosion were to occur today, killing all life, this current civilization would obviously come to an end. But would the Earth come to an end? No. Would the traces of this civilization remain? In just 10 years, cities would barely exist. In 100 years, apart from some exceptionally solid structures, most everything else would be gone. What about in 1,000 years? 10,000 years? What would remain? Over the long course of time, life could evolve, and it's possible they would not be human. Could they find any traces of this civilization left in the historical ruins? Not necessarily. Yes, humans can leave stone inscriptions, recording this period of civilization in human language. But who understands this language? The people of the next civilization will define civilization from their own perspective, believing the starting point of their civilization marks the origin of all civilization on Earth. So what about the previous generation? Who can assert that before our current generation of humans, there was no splendid and brilliant civilization that ever existed on Earth? If we consider 10,000 years as the beginning and end of a civilization, in 4.6 billion years, how many 10,000 years are there? 460,000. We can't see their existence because of the civilization gap. Perhaps they also left behind a large number of stone carvings, but we do not recognize their symbols and can't deeply understand their civilization. This class was taught before entering the temple. This class was also a bit overwhelming, to the extent that Lin Asu, standing under the ruins of this ancient temple, always felt as if innumerable eyes were watching him through the time-space river. His gaze also lifted, staring at the other side of the cliff. On the other side of the cliff was nothingness. However, Lin Asu seemed to see something that interested him. Yes, he saw array patterns. Countless array patterns. Inside seemed to be a different realm. But the professor and his group were looking in a different direction, at a Buddha-shaped stone pillar with a small bodhi tree on it. This bodhi was very small, merely 3 feet in diameter. But its trunk was iron blue, and its branches and leaves were also iron blue. On the top of the mountain where the wind was strong, the bodhi tree seemed not to sway much, as if it was cast from iron. If it weren't for the occasional fluttering of a few leaves, he really would have thought the tree was cast in iron. This is the bodhi tree. Li Sissy tilted her head back. It's really strange. How can such a tree grow so big on this bald rock? A graduate student said. Hufu said, this is called the radiance of Buddha nature, just like me. Possessing Buddha root, one can grow and thrive even where there is no soil underfoot. Li Sissy's brows frowned, seemingly struggling to keep from blowing up. It was only because this place was a bit mysterious that she held back. It was the first time in his life that little monk Liao Ran praised Hufu. Amitabha, benefactor, you speak very well. Hufu happily patted little monk Liao Ran's head. See, I've received Buddhist recognition. Possessing Buddha root is a certainty. Little monk Liao Ran shrank his head. Benefactor, don't speak like this. This little monk is still young and doesn't understand Buddha's teachings. Although you are young, Your understanding and profundity in the way of Buddha are immeasurable. You are the most knowledgeable of Buddha's teachings. Hu Fu was extra lenient toward him at this moment, because being lenient to little monk Liao Ran was like being lenient to himself. Li Sisi pouted. Professor, I fear we came at the wrong time. This Bodhi doesn't seem to intend to blossom. With that statement, the whole team fell silent. After a difficult journey, they finally arrived at the temple and saw the legendary Bodhi. However, the Bodhi did not bloom. If the Bodhi did not bloom, the Bodhi beyond would be meaningless. Their only mission when entering Mian Road was the Bodhi beyond. This mission failed. It wasn't because they didn't try hard, nor was it because of setbacks, but because the timing of their arrival was wrong. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew and dark clouds rolled. It's going to rain, Hu Fu said. Set up the tents, Professor called out. Soon 8 tents were pitched, and just as they were set up, a storm came. They faced an autumn storm amidst the temple ruins. Lin Zaiasu's gaze, through the thin tent, looked at the surrounding pillars, which bore some unique patterns, unlike any text he had read in all the documents. But these patterns clearly carried the characteristics of text. These texts, perhaps, were the origin of this temple. Regrettably, even with his human Tao orchid heart powerful and boundless, even with his language learning skills high above the skies, without any references or corresponding information, trying to decrypt these texts was but a dreamer's talk. He could only record the shapes of these texts, his brain now filled with a load of information. Barely 2 hours had passed. The rain stopped. With a low rumble, Jing Lei broke through the sky. Clouds opened and closed. Professor looked quickly. A shout of surprise came from Li Sisi's side. Almost simultaneously, everyone emerged from the tents, staring in amazement at the sky. Above the sky, the dark clouds were dispersing, sunlight piercing through the clouds, and in the void a giant Buddha image appeared, reaching 100 jang, like a mirage of Sea City. Amitabha, little monk Liao Ran brought his hands together in prayer, his form solemn, his head so bright. Damn this! Even Hu Fu, who was unrestrained in his speech after exclaiming, could no longer continue. Because the Buddha image was too realistic. It was a bit beyond the scope of being made fun of. Lin Zaiasu's mouth opened slightly, also greatly surprised. Beside him, Dawa pressed a hand to his chest. May the omnipotent eternal heaven bless us on our return journey, to find the Jade fruit, to bless Brother Su and his little Yi in their perilous return. Lin Zaiasu's gaze returned, falling on her face. Suddenly, Li Sisi screamed sharply, pointing in one direction, her fingertips trembling lightly. Professor Yin turned his head sharply, his eyes suddenly brightened. Lin Zaiasu also turned around, staring in surprise at the Buddha-shaped stone pillar. The Bodhi on the stone pillar had bloomed a strange flower, its tendrils gently swaying, just like the other shore flower. Bodhi beyond. Just now, this Bodhi tree had not the slightest intention of blooming, but it was just an autumn rain, a mirage of the ages after which, in the midst of a rainbow, the Bodhi bloomed. Bodhi beyond, 2 graduate students exclaimed, both shocked and delighted. The flower blooms on the other shore, seeing the Buddha is Bodhi. Little monk Liao Ran quietly recited, Master said. Whoosh! Li Sisi leaped up, climbing to the top of the stone pillar, carefully picked the extraordinary flower and brought it to Professor Yin. Professor Yin opened a box, placed the flower inside, and his face showed a smile. Chapter 175. Chapter 175. The Suddenly Disappearing Companion. The most unpredictable task was smoothly completed, and everyone was free. They relaxed and searched for new discoveries among the temple ruins. But there was too little to be found, just stone pillars with mysterious patterns. Li Sisi photographed each pillar from all sides, while Lin Zaiasu also observed them from every angle, but he didn't take pictures. His human Tao orchid heart was so powerful that seeing was as good as photographing. As for that Bodhi, 2 graduate students had some crooked ideas, asking their professor whether they should simply strip it clean. Before the professor could answer, the little monk became upset and gave the 2 graduate students a lesson in Buddhist principles. This lesson, taught in his master's name, asserted that a place of Buddhism should not tolerate greed. His master also said that karma exists in this world. The words were very civilized, very logical, but the implication was undecipherable and very malicious. If you dare to uproot this Bodhi tree, you surely won't die a good death. The 2 graduate students were disciplined in the name of his master and lost their temper. Finally, after inspecting everything, they descended from the temple and crossed the ice and fire twin bridge as the sun was about to set, embarking on their return journey. They spent another night at the place where they had stayed the night before. That night Dawa was very sad, because eternal heaven hadn't revealed itself, and the Buddha statue that appeared in the sky suddenly wasn't miraculous. They simply couldn't find the Jade fruit. She really wanted to comfort Brother Su. But Brother Su had already gone to rest in his tent early. He must be feeling bad right now. She didn't know how to comfort him. Another next day. They passed through Wolf Valley again, then through Hudi Valley. As the sun set, they safely returned to Wuxiang Temple. Upon returning to Wuxiang Temple, it was already deep into the night. Master Han Guang had prepared a vegetarian meal for them, surprisingly free of charge. After dinner, Professor Yin suggested that it was late, and they should rest in the quiet chambers for the night and return home the next day. No one on his team objected. Lin Ziasu naturally had no objections either. So they settled down. Outside the mountain, the autumn wind grew colder. Inside the temple, it was very quiet. The 4-day and 4-night journey on Mian Road came to an end, and everyone seemed to sleep very peacefully. He was awakened by the morning bell of the temple. Pushing open the divine gate, he saw the little monk Liao Ran. Liao Ran was holding a tray with porridge and steamed buns on it, a standard Han person's breakfast. Lin Ziasu thanked his little companion who had accompanied him along the way and ate his breakfast. Casually he asked, "Are they all up yet?" Liao Ran answered him, "Your companions have already left the temple and gone home." Lin Ziasu suddenly looked up, somewhat incredulous. Early in the morning, had all his companions gone home? Was there a need to be so early? Besides, he always felt that several of the companions would say goodbye to him, like Dawa. After coming out of the mountain, he could tell that Dawa had something to say to him. But they all quietly slipped away. From the current time, it must have been still dark when they left. Was it because they got hold of the legendary Bodhi beyond, and feared that waiting longer might bring trouble? This didn't quite match their personalities. One needs to know that among them were several superpower-level individuals. How many in the mortal world could pose a threat to them? Stepping out of the divine gate, Lin Ziasu silently activated reverse time. Under reverse time, he saw an unimaginable scene. Indeed, some people had left before dawn. Professor Yin and his 2 graduate students. Only the 3 of them. Hufu, Li Sisi, and Dawa did not leave. They followed the little monk in front of them to the side hall ahead and never came out again. Lin Ziasu strolled following their footsteps in the early morning. The side hall was even more secluded than the main temple, all within the mountain body. He made his way down the narrow cave to the end of the side hall. At the end of this stone wall sat an old monk. It was the same one who sat in the temple that day when they entered the mountain. Throughout the entire process, his only job was to sit, never uttering a word. Today, he sat at the end of the side hall, also just sitting, and seemed to have no intention of speaking either, because he hadn't even opened his eyes. Lin Ziasu stared at the stone wall behind him, his eyes empty. 3 companions who had been together through trials and tribulations entered this side hall and vanished from this world. To the normal eye, one could see to the end of this side hall where not even a mouse could hide. But with reverse time, he saw something incredible. This natural stone wall was a portal. Behind it was another world. "Benefactor, the master is in retreat and cannot be disturbed. Please return," came the youthful voice of the little monk Liao Ran from behind. Lin Ziasu slowly turned around and gently raised his hand, touching the young monk's head. "He is your master." "Yes. Your master is not in retreat. He is just avoiding unnecessary disturbances," Lin Ziasu said. "If he hears a topic that interests him, he will open his eyes." "Benefactor, my master is detached from the 4 worldly concerns and has no topics of interest," replied the little monk. "Is that so? How about we make a bet?" Lin Ziasu said. "If I can get him interested, will you tell me your real age?" Liao Ran stared at him blankly, his 2 bright eyes conveying a somewhat bewildered signal, as if to ask, "Can Buddhists make bets? And the bet is, my age." Lin Ziasu smiled faintly and turned around. "Master, you are Kun Kang, right?" These 8 words, if they were to fall into the ears of a Qianlong member, would absolutely be earth-shattering. But in the master's ears, they seemed to pass like a breeze, with no visible reaction on his part. However, Lin Zaiasu sensitively observed that the master's neck seemed to tense up slightly. This adventure is a test arranged by Kun Kang, isn't it? Such a statement was even more incredible. The master still didn't move, but his eyebrows mysteriously fluttered in the wind. Lin Zaiasu laughed. Professor Yin's role is similar to the world traveler of Kun Kang. His duty is to select promising seeds for Kun Kang. If he brings suitable people, he can even receive a reward from Kun Kang. That Badhai Beyond is his reward for this mission, right? The little monk stepped forward. Benefactor, please do not disturb my master's meditation, my master. His voice suddenly stopped abruptly because the master, facing him, opened his eyes and quietly watched Lin Zaiasu. Lin Zaiasu also gazed back quietly. Those eyes were extraordinary. Born on the face of a young man, they'd be considered an enhancement to his appearance, but on the face of an old monk nearing his end, it's hard to know what that would be like. Perhaps this is what it means when there's Buddha in the heart, there's light in the eyes. Master, the little monk brought his hands together in salute. The master waved his hand lightly, signaling for the little monk to leave. The little monk bowed and retreated. The side hall became quiet. Only two pairs of eyes were locked in a gaze. The master let out a light breath. Benefactor, what exactly did you mean by what you just said? If the master truly didn't understand what I said, you probably wouldn't have needed to open your eyes, said Lin Zaiasu. Kun Kang is not a force that must hide from sight, and as a revered Buddhist master, you are certainly not one to lurk behind the scenes. Why not meet openly and honestly? The master let out a light breath and smiled slightly. Benefactor, did Master Yin inform you of these 3 consecutive statements you've made? This statement was sufficiently candid. This statement also entirely confirmed Lin Zaiasu's guess. Yes, what he had said was a bold guess, but at this moment it had been verified. Waves of emotion surged in his heart, but his face remained as calm as an autumn breeze. Master, the junior has earned Professor Yin's trust. May I have earned yours as well? This was also an indirect admission. But it was a skillfully phrased admission. He didn't lock himself into a definite statement. He only said he had earned Professor Yin's trust. Even if Professor Yin were to trouble him later, he could respond easily. I only said I had earned your trust. Isn't the mere act of inviting me to join the team a sign of trust? I'm not spreading rumors, nor did I say you revealed any secrets. The master said, what kind of trust does the benefactor seek? I would like to ask the master to open the portal to the realm behind him. This junior wishes to join Kun Kang. Behind him. These 2 words carried a hidden profundity. Their meaning was broad. Behind him could refer to the stone wall currently behind the master. It could also refer to the Kun Kang behind Wuxiang Temple that the master represented. No matter where this portal to the realm might be, the words behind him were sufficient to encompass it all. The master smiled gently. It seems the benefactor does not accept his elimination. Elimination. Acceptance. These 2 words entered Lin Zaiasu's ears and he immediately understood the answer. He, Lin Zaiasu, was also among those being considered for selection, but he had not passed. The eminent Kun Kang individual was secretly observing everyone in their team, choosing Hu Fu, Li Sisi, and Dawa, but not him. 4 traveled together, yet only I was excluded. Naturally, I'm not convinced, Lin Zaiasu said. May I ask what the criteria for Kun Kang's selection really are? That was what he truly wanted to know. He wanted to understand what the people of Kun Kang really valued. Hu Fu, Li Sisi, Dawa, they didn't seem to have anything in common. The master said, there are many sects within the Kun Kang sect, and each values different qualities. Some select disciples based on lineage, some select disciples for their unique cultivation techniques, and some even select disciples based on their beauty. The reasons are numerous. However, forgive me for being direct, in the eyes of Kun Kang's masters, you, benefactor, do not possess a compelling reason to be chosen. Lin Zaiasu's eyes slowly widened with realization. Selection based on lineage must refer to Dawa. Her lineage must be very special. Selection based on cultivation techniques must be referring to Hu Fu. Could it be that the ancient martial arts he practices are so miraculous that even Kun Kang couldn't afford to let him go? And selection based on beauty. Clearly that was Li Sisi. Lin Zaiasu admitted that this girl's beauty was convincing. As long as one had normal aesthetics, she'd indeed be considered beautiful. But to select disciples based on her beauty was rather, that's some fucked up. It seemed like the selection had an air of a boss choosing his secretary. Do the masters within Kun Kang also have such low tastes? Countless thoughts flowed through his mind, condensing into one sigh. As a master of high esteem, surely your perspective should be unique. Do you truly believe that I, the junior, am utterly without merit? The master shook his head gently. The old monk sees that the benefactor is indeed extraordinary. If the benefactor is willing to become a monk and join our Wuxiang temple, naturally, I would welcome it with open arms. But as for joining Kun Kang, the old monk has no deciding authority. Who does have the authority? There is indeed someone who has the authority. However, that person is not I. Your request, benefactor, is an unattainable wish. Why not let it go? He wasn't unwilling to satisfy Lin Ziasu's request. He simply didn't have the power to do so. The door to Kun Kang can only be opened from within. The authority over Kun Kang rested in a pair of hands he couldn't see. The owner of these hands might be watching him in the shadows or searching through the bustling crowd for the exceptional individual he approved of. If you earned his recognition, you were qualified to enter Kun Kang. If you didn't receive his approval, it was impossible for you to force your way in. Chapter 176. Chapter 176. Breaking through the formation into Kun Kang. Lin Ziasu strolled out of the side hall and stumbled upon the little monk, who tilted his head back and told him, "Benefactor, I've checked. I am 12 years and 3 months and 7 days old." This was in response to Lin Ziasu's bet. Lin Ziasu successfully made his master open his eyes. He fulfilled the wager, revealing to Lin Ziasu his true age. "Not bad." Lin Ziasu patted his sleek little head. "Now I can pat your head without any worries." "Benefactor, why is that?" The little monk didn't understand. "I was a bit worried that you were an old monk of over 100 years, and me patting you like this would be quite impolite. But since you've said so yourself, you're still a child, so it's fine." Lin Ziasu said, "Goodbye." "Benefactor, are you going home?" "Maybe, who cares?" Lin Ziasu strode down the mountain, while the little monk watched him leave under the bodhi tree. Time passed hour by hour. In the blink of an eye, Tibet welcomed another setting sun. At Nanjiang University, Professor Yin returned to his laboratory, looking at the rare flower in the special container. He was as excited as a groom on his wedding night, despite being close to 50. Suddenly, news arrived, and Professor Yin's face changed. "Professor," a graduate student called out. Professor Yin stared blankly at him, his eyebrows tightly furrowed. "Professor, what happened?" As if waking from a dream, Professor Yin slowly relaxed the tense muscles of his face. "Proceed with the initial experimental procedure." Okay, the two graduate students began their research process. Professor Yin slowly left the laboratory, crossed the campus, and reached a dormitory building. On the rooftop was a beautiful little garden, planted with flowers and plants, appearing very refined. A man in white was watering the flowers in the pots, creating a beautiful scene against the sunset. This man wore glasses, was scholarly and elegant, around his 30s, exuding a literary aura. Professor Yin went upstairs and the man in white glanced his way. "I just saw you come back. Did something go awry?" "I've obtained the Bodhi beyond." The man in white gave a soft smile. "If the intended goal has been perfectly achieved, why do you look so displeased?" Professor Yin said, "There was a small mishap." "What?" "A fellow traveler just revealed all of our plans in front of the elder, clear and explicit. The elder was very annoyed and blamed me." "All of the plans?" The man in white was a bit surprised. "Yes. He said that our journey through Mian Road was Kun Kang's assessment, and the Bodhi beyond we obtained was a reward from Kun Kang." The man in white adjusted his glasses lightly. "You told him." "That's exactly what the elder blamed me for, questioning why I would divulge Kun Kang's secrets to an irrelevant outsider." Professor Yin said, "However, the issue is, I didn't tell him. The people who knew about this test were only 5, including the 3 from Wuxiang Temple and the 2 of us." "Yes." "Are you certain that none of the 3 from Wuxiang Temple revealed anything?" "Absolutely certain." "If you didn't tell and I didn't either," the man in white spoke gravely, "how did this person know?" "That's exactly why I'm here to see you today. 1, to confirm whether you've leaked any information, and 2, to have you analyze what is going on," Professor Yin said. The man in white slowly lifted his head. "If indeed none of the 5 of us disclosed anything, there's only one possibility. This fellow traveler of yours may be extraordinarily exceptional." Mind-reading technique. Mind-reading technique is but a rumor. Even though some in the world claim to be proficient in it, most are mere psychologists. The real masters of mind-reading are probably the Dai Ting clan. However, since the Earth Gate closed, the underground race has severed ties with this generation's civilization. Professor Yin shook his head slightly. He can walk freely under the sunlight. He definitely isn't from the Dai Ting clan. If he is not a Dai Ting that has broken through the seal, then we must judge according to conventional methods. To grasp the full design behind an ordinary adventure with such precision is truly mind-boggling. Even the top spies from Qianlong wouldn't likely manage that. It's worth investigating who this person really is, what kind of force is behind him, and if there might be designs against Kun Kang. Otherwise, he wouldn't have such insight into Kun Kang, the man in white said. Professor Yin nodded slowly. That's the third reason I've come to you today. You need to personally take action, find out who this person is, and determine which power he represents. Where is he? The elder said that, after he left Wuxiang Temple, he didn't head towards Huixian Town, but went back to Mian Road instead. Going back, the man in white said, could it be he knows more secrets beyond the temple? I personally suspect he might be intending to penetrate the array. The man in white said, if he can see through the array with just one adventure, then I have to say the elder is wrong. The elder is wrong. Yes, if he can see through the array, it means he is exactly the array path prodigy that Kun Kang needs the most, and such a person, overlooked by the elder. Isn't that a monumental mistake? Professor Yin's eyes brightened. You mean he really might be able to penetrate into the realm? To penetrate into the realm, that's asking for too much. Is this some ordinary array? It is the last defiance and millennia of glory of the ancient array sect. Even the mighty ones from the ancient wilderness sighed upon seeing the array. How could it possibly be touched by a mere ant of this world? Professor Yin asked, what will you do? I'll wait for him at Huixian Town. The man in white slightly smiled. I'd like to see just who this person is, who with just a few words caused the elder to question you and left you in such a state of distress. Just as the two had discussed, Lin Ziaosu did not return to Huixian Town. He went back on Mian Road, and in just a day and a night, he covered the distance that took them 2 days and 2 nights before, returning to the location of the temple. Before the adventure, he tried his best to appear ordinary. His sole purpose was not to be too conspicuous. He had a hunch that Kun Kang would be watching this group of people. He didn't want to stand out too much and attract too much attention. He wanted to observe his observers in return. This is standard adversarial thinking. He was very successful, or perhaps too successful. He maintained a low profile and indeed avoided being the focus of attention. But as a result, the other 3 traveling companions were chosen by Kun Kang and entered, while he, due to his lackluster performance, was not selected. This was quite awkward. It was also contrary to his wishes. The reason for this unexpected outcome was something he hadn't considered. At the beginning, he didn't realize this was an assessment. Only after everything concluded did he, through the recordings of these 3 companions getting started, combined with all the untimely occurrences on the journey, as well as Professor Yin's composed departure, and the various signs from the Bodhi beyond, sort everything out. Professor Yin and the man in white clothes analyzed a bunch, unable to pinpoint the problem. In fact, the problem lied in Lin Ziaosu's special abilities. He was the strongest detective. He had the human Tao orchid heart. He had time-space retrospection. He could infer the changing of seasons from a single leaf. He also had strong logical reasoning skills and the ability to hypothesize and verify hypotheses. In between connecting the dots of cases, he set a small trap that even the old monk who had seen through the ways of the world couldn't escape from his verbal snare. All the speculations were confirmed by the old monk. Then he could act freely and make a big move. Kun Kang, by denying me the rightful entry, do you think I can only look up to Kunlun with a heavy sigh? Yes, I can't open the gates you're unwilling to open. But you shouldn't have shown me the back door in my presence. Night had already fallen. In the temple ruins, the mountain wind howled. Around was no one, no creature. Only the ice and fire twin bridge shimmered with a misty light under the night sky. That light invisible to ordinary people, because that was array patterns. Behind the temple, a vast expanse. To the naked eye it appeared as just a mountain, but under Lin Ziaosu's heavenly Tao wisdom eye, array patterns were everywhere, revealing a hidden paradise. With a whoosh, he jumped off the cliff. On this path, it seemed as if he truly grew impatient with life, for the cliff was eerily high, hundreds of meters tall, and even a genetic person leaping down would die. However, Lin Zaiasu only descended 7 or 8 meters before vanishing into thin air. Indeed, if someone were standing at the temple ruins and looking with normal vision, he would have disappeared into thin air. But the real him, breaking through the array's mist, landed on a stone bridge. He entered this quagmire of arrays. Beneath him was an endless void. Ahead was a solitary stone bridge. No, half a bridge. The stone bridge was covered in array patterns, and so was the void. They eerily hovered in midair. Lin Zaiasu gently lifted a hand, holding a twig, cautiously moving it towards the array patterns in the air. With a light slicing sound, the upper half of the twig, along with the leaves, disappeared into nothing. Lin Zaiasu broke into a cold sweat on his back. If it weren't for his ability to see the array patterns, had he walked across the bridge in a normal manner, he would have been headless by now. This was the sinister killing power of array patterns. So did their destructive power have a boundary? He tried again, this time with a dagger in hand, taken from a fight with the 9-headed snake, crafted from a special alloy, though not able to slice through iron like mud, was stronger than ordinary steel. But as soon as the dagger touched the array patterns, the front half disappeared just the same, and the most terrifying part was that Lin Zaiasu felt no vibration in his hand. The destructive power of the array patterns completely overturned common physical knowledge. Lin Zaiasu stood still for a moment, closing his eyes. Then he opened his eyes with the heavenly Tao wisdom eye intensely focused. Step by step, he crossed the half-bridge. He traversed the array patterns on the stone bridge with the caution of tiptoeing through a minefield. He carefully avoided the array patterns in the void. The short half-stone bridge took him half an hour to cross, because he couldn't determine whether these array patterns would suddenly change. Fortunately, the array patterns did not change, remaining fixed in place. As he reached the edge of the bridge, he grew bolder. The array patterns wouldn't change, so he could quicken his pace. Although the sky was full of bizarre array patterns and their positions were completely irregular, he could see them and thus he could avoid them. Just at this moment, a stele standing on the edge of the bridge caught his attention. This stele was very old, covered in patches, completely filled with array patterns. Lin Zaiasu locked on tightly, and on this stele were inscribed the same characters as on the temple pillars. Chapter 177, Chapter 177, Void Ruins. Unfortunately, he didn't recognize any of them. Only by using human Tao Orchid Heart to replicate in full. Such replication, probably only human Tao Orchid Heart could achieve. Ordinary people would choke on trying to memorize a page of text, let alone a screen full of enigmatic symbols. You try. In 10 minutes, Lin Zaiasu had memorized this stele. Continuing on. There were no living creatures around, not even plants, just dead silence. Beneath his feet seemed to be ruins even more ancient than the temple. As Lin Zaiasu moved forward, he felt increasingly that this ruin was a large complex of buildings. Over 10 miles further, he was completely certain that this was a complex, because the ground, flooring, and scattered bluestones all had traces of human work. Climbing the hill ahead, a huge temple appeared before him. The temple was in ruins. But unlike the usual ruins, because there were no living creatures inside, no rats, no weeds. Weeds would indicate desolation, but was it not desolate without them? No, on the contrary, it was even more desolate without weeds. Even the grass wouldn't join the bustle here. Just imagine how desolate that must be. There was no dust in the air, but there were array patterns. These incomplete array patterns were the dust that floated above the ruins. Floating for who knows how many years, they still refused to settle down. Lin Zaiasu felt an inexplicable sadness as he trod carefully on the ruins, avoiding the completely irregular array patterns. Finally, he arrived at the highest hall. A huge stele stood before him. On the stele, countless strange symbols. Lin Zaiasu sat down beneath the stele, human Tao Orchid Heart fully activated, capturing every symbol. These symbols might be the secret of these ruins. Even though he didn't recognize them at the moment, perhaps someone from Kun Kang would. Decrypting this might unveil a secret buried for untold years. He had a premonition that the secret wasn't a small one. And he was almost certain that this place, even for Kun Kang's people, was seldom visited, because these array patterns were too terrifying, too bizarre. Without Heavenly Tao Wisdom Eye, you couldn't see them at all, and no matter how high your cultivation, if you can't see the array patterns, coming here meant death. His ability to arrive wasn't related to his cultivation level. It relied on the special nature of Heavenly Tao Wisdom Eye to observe array patterns. That night, Lin Zaiasu completed the full replication of this stele. Dawn broke. The ruins were even more desolate. Lin Zaiasu took out a piece of roasted wolf meat from his space. Although the last of his cold rations from his previous adventures, he gobbled it down. After replenishing his strength, he continued on. There was a huge network of array patterns in front, dense and almost without gaps. But only almost. There was a gap in the northwest corner, measuring 5 by 5. Lin Zaiasu stepped through this gap, 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. After more than 10 steps, water flowed gently in front of him. Lin Zaiasu leaped, landing on a rock and looked back, his expression subtly changing. The place he came from was visible to Heavenly Tao Wisdom Eye. But to ordinary sight, it was clearly emptiness. The ruins, through ordinary vision, appeared as nothing at the entrance, and emptiness at the exit too. He began to doubt if anyone in this world, aside from himself, could find this void. His gaze returned to the front, skepticism in his eyes. A river of clear water flowed, with green trees and red flowers on both banks. Countless pavilions and terraces brought out a different charm. Is this Kunlun? Kunlun Mountain, a place of magic, a grand mountain. He could comprehend the 1,000 miles of glaciers. Yet beneath his feet was a resort village like Jiangnan, breathing in, also warm air. Suddenly, on the cliff ahead, a slender figure rose, a woman in ancient attire. Lin Zaiasu's eyes suddenly widened. From the moment she appeared, he locked onto her. With a movement of her feet, she leapt up 7 or 8 meters from thin air, landing on the ridge, shocking him greatly. Ancient martial cultivator. With a swish, the woman crossed the 10-meter void between 2 platforms and landed before him. Raising her hand, a long sword pointed straight at his nose. You're not from Shenghua Valley, who are you? Her voice was crisp, but also carried an ancient charm. Though this place was called Shenghua Valley. Indeed, it was very much like a painted Jiangnan paradise. Lin Zaiasu said, I'm a tourist who entered by accident, miss, I mean no harm. Tourist, entered by accident. Who are you trying to fool? Do you think I, a young girl, am naive? You're wrong, I'm the smartest disciple of this generation in Shenghua Valley. I can see right through your filthy heart. You're from Tianyan Palace. The girl spoke like a machine gun, starting off fast and only getting faster. Lin Zaiasu said, what makes you so sure I'm from Tianyan Palace? Because you're very handsome. You fit the Tianyan Palace's standard of choosing scholars for their looks. Also because you Tianyan Palace people sneak into Shenghua Valley to harm our female disciples, not just once or twice. You rotten rascal, die. Hiss. A sword thrust at him. To the naked eye, this strike appeared to have 4 shadows, but Lin Zaiasu clearly knew, 3 feints and 1 real. He fiercely dodged to the side, avoiding the real sword. The girl's sword circled back, this time 7 feints to 1 real. Sadly for her, Lin Zaiasu saw the real strike again and avoided it, now standing at the edge of a cliff. In his heart he cursed. He was almost certain that the ground beneath his feet was the mysterious Kun Kang. But no one told me that entering Kun Kang meant fighting. This woman looks polite and reasonable at first glance. Her words actually sound quite pleasant, too, such as when she said on her 3rd sentence that he is handsome. But then the tail end of her 3rd sentence is, stinking hooligan, go die, followed by a flurry of stabbing. Do you make any sense at all? Is being handsome a reason for you to stab with your sword? Swoosh. Sword shadows proliferated, creating countless feints. Missing twice, the woman flew into a real rage. Lin Zaiasu had nowhere to retreat, suddenly shifted his body to avoid the only real sword thrust, and with a quick motion, smashed a fist towards her chest. Showing your true colors now, huh? You unchangeable stinking hooligan, still trying to grope me. The woman leapt into the air, sword pointing down, feet pointing up, sending 3 sword shadows falling in 3 directions. Lin Zaiasu's heart skipped a beat. He actually couldn't distinguish which of the 3 swords was real and which was fake, or rather, all 3 swords seemed to be both real and fake, capable of switching at any moment. He abruptly retreated, falling straight off the cliff during his retreat. Trying to run, no way, the woman's shout came from the air. She too leaped down. With a splash, Lin Zaiasu fell into the waters below, and the woman, refusing to let go, thrust her sword into the water heading straight for his chest. Lin Zaiasu leapt out of the water. And so did the woman. However, Lin Zaiasu suddenly changed his tactics. His fist carrying a spray of water struck from the left side. Boom! This punch landed squarely on the woman's face, flinging her out, sword knocked from her grasp. Touching her face, she exploded into anger like an inflated ball shooting out of the water. You dare hit my face. By now, Lin Zaiasu had steadied himself on the water's edge, facing the woman's frantic, unmethodical advance. And especially since she was swordless, he had many ways to deal with her. Clang! A kick flew out, the woman clutching her buttocks, landing by the water's edge, stunned. Ah! Suddenly she screamed, her voice echoing through the valley. Stinking hooligan bastard, I'm not done with you. With a tap of her foot on the hilt, she scooped it up in a very cool posture and thrust the sword again. Lin Zaiasu sighed softly. It seems he would have to beat her down for real. This woman was like a hornet's nest. Absolutely furious. Although her ancient martial cultivation had reached a high level, in Lin Zaiasu's view, it was all show and flash without the real power seen in his past adversaries, like number 37 Qianlong gold medal, Chu Tianquo. Chu Tianquo, he had beaten to the point of life questioning. This woman's relentless attacks, it was necessary to show her what's called simple and practical killing techniques. But at that moment, a sudden sensation struck his heart. A figure appeared before him out of thin air. A finger lightly lifted, accurately colliding with the tip of the sword the previous woman had thrust. The fierce assault came to a standstill. Lin Zaiasu looked up to witness an unimaginable scene. The person who appeared out of nowhere was also a woman. But she was skeletal thin. Dressed in a purple ancient-style long dress, her waist tied with a purple belt, with a waistline literally as thin as a rope, her fingers almost mere bones. The half of her face she presented to him was truly skin and bones. Such leanness he had never seen before in his life. Yet this woman, thin enough to be blown away by a breeze, lightly tapped her finger on the previous woman's sword tip, stopping the attacking sword in its tracks. What shocked Lin Zaiasu even more was that he couldn't see any trace of the thin woman's action. "Senior sister," said the previous woman, "why did you stop me? This is the stinking hooligan from Tianyan Palace." "He's not," the thin woman replied with 3 words. Her voice echoed hollowly indeed, like a lonely wind blowing through an ancient vacant temple. Perhaps this was related to her thinness, making the resonance chamber within her body different. How could he not be? He touched my boobs when we met, just now he even touched my butt. What normal person does that? Oh dear. Lin Zaiasu felt he must defend himself at this point. Was I touching your boobs? That was me punching your chest. Did I touch your butt? That's called kicking. You're adding your own drama. You're adding some racy drama at that. The Lord has spoken, the senior sister said. The Lord said that. Impossible, senior sister, you think he's handsome. Now even the senior sister was speechless. Suddenly a voice erupted from the sky. Gu Yu, stop making trouble, Feng Jai, bring this lad up the mountain. Lin Zaiasu abruptly turned around, his heart pounding. He pinpointed the direction of the voice, and it was utterly unbelievable. If his keen senses hadn't deceived him, if there were no weird devices for voice projection in this world, then this voice must have come from at least 5 miles away on that high mountain. A voice that spans 5 miles, as if right by the ear. Is this not the work of immortal law? The one called Feng Jai, the senior sister. Once she landed, Lin Zaiasu instinctively wanted to dodge but failed to do so. The next moment the wind blew and a sudden gust faced him. Lin Zaiasu had ascended the mountain. He was completely befuddled. Ordinary people wouldn't know how he got up the mountain, but he knew full well. The senior sister carried him up the mountain. Not by directly flying over 5 miles, but not too dissimilar. She tapped the ground with her toes 17 times, touched the trees thrice, and the water surface once, then traversed the 5-mile distance, ascending a 500-meter peak. He mentally calculated using a mathematical formula, and the result was all physical laws and worldviews crumbled to bits. Chapter 178. Chapter 178. Elder Hua, Lord of Blooming. Reporting to the Lord, this young master has been brought here. Feng Jai, the senior sister, bowed slightly like a bamboo swayed by the wind. Lin Zaiasu finally saw her full appearance. That face of hers was somewhat terrifying, and her figure was even more devil-like. Describing a woman's figure as devilish usually means curvaceous and tempting. But her figure being described as ghostly is literal. It truly resembled a ghost. Her thinness was indescribable. Such thinness, any bit of flesh on her body would be a luxury, including her chest, which had nothing. "Please come in," a gentle female voice came from inside. It was the same voice he had heard from 5 miles away. "Lord." "Young master, please," Feng Jai bowed gently, her voice soft. "Thank you, miss." Lin Zaiasu bowed slightly to her and then stepped forward. Ahead was a mountain cave. The entrance had an old plum tree and a small pond, seemingly ordinary. Yet Lin Zaiasu dared not be careless, as he knew the person inside was someone he had never seen before, magically powerful beyond description. Stepping into the cave, there turned out to be a paradise within. The floor was made of colorful stones, spotlessly clean. On the stones stood 7 green bamboos, likewise spotless. Underneath the bamboo, there was a small pond with an antique tea table beside it. A beautiful woman sat next to the tea table, slowly raising her head. In that moment, it felt as though a flower had bloomed in a dark room, and the cave's light seemed to gradually brighten. It was so magical and stunning. Lin Zaiasu looked at the woman in front of him, who looked like a youthful beauty. His heart tumultuously stirred. Kun Kang, the valley master of Shenghua Valley. She couldn't possibly be a youthful beauty, yet her appearance said otherwise. Ancient martial couldn't have such miraculous skills. She must be from the immortal path. People say there are immortals in Kunlun. Could she be a true immortal in front of me? "Are you the Lord?" The woman smiled gently. "You are not from Shenghua Valley. There's no need for formalities, just call me Valley Master. Please have a seat." "Thank you, Valley Master." Lin Zaiasu sat down opposite her. "This is Yusheng tea, also one of the top 10 famous teas in Kun Kang. Young master, please have a taste." The woman gracefully held up the teacup. Lin Zaiasu picked up the cup in front of him. The tea had only 3 leaves, yet the cup was completely green, and with a light sip, he suddenly felt the fatigue of his recent adventures swept away. This tea seemed to contain endless spiritual energy. "Excellent tea." The Lord asked. "Young master isn't from the heavenly beauty palace, but from the outside world of Kunlun, correct?" "Yes." The Lord's face suddenly changed, showing a bit of excitement. "How did you get here?" "Do you know of the temple at the end of Mian Road?" "I do. I came through there. That place is the ruins of the ancient array sect, full of lethal arrays along the way. You were able to pass through." "I must confess, I have some knowledge of arrays." The Lord exhaled softly. "Unexpectedly, in what we regard as the land of the end of Dharma, there are still people who deeply study arrays. Could the young master step outside?" She gently stood up and walked outside the cave. Lin Zaiasu followed along. Outside the cave, Feng Jai, the senior sister, bowed deeply. The Lord passed by her and came to the edge of a cliff, gently raising her hand, pointing to the distance. "Young master, can you see the anomaly 30 miles away?" Lin Zaiasu activated his heavenly Tao wisdom eye, focusing on the direction she pointed. He saw array patterns, filling the sky and extremely intricate, even moving. In the fog of the valley there were array patterns on the mountain-top clouds, array patterns, and amidst the vapors steaming off the mountain, there were array patterns. The mountain range looked ordinary, but with these array patterns, it appeared terrifying to Lin Zaiasu. He was very aware of the terror of array patterns. Invisible to most, untouchable by anyone, touch it and die. With these array patterns, the northwest region became a deadly place for mortals. Such a terrifying array that it can cover the entire sky. As Lin Zaiasu voiced his awe, the Lord's eyes suddenly brightened. Feng Jai behind them also abruptly widened her eyes, disbelief filling them. The Lord exhaled softly. "Young master, I have an uninvited request." Her tone had changed, no longer referring to herself as seated one, but as a little woman. "Lord is too modest. If there's anything within my ability, please command." Lin Zaiasu bowed. The Lord said, "You could see through the locking sky array with just a glance. As an array master, our Shenghua Valley has been trapped by this array for 300 years, as if in a cage. If the young master could open a path for our Shenghua Valley, all of us would owe you a great favor." Lin Zaiasu's heart pounded. "A valley's favor. I want it. But I'm a fake array master. I simply have special eyes that can see the array patterns, but I know nothing about arrays. How am I supposed to open the path? Seeing his silent demeanor, the Lord said, "The young lady has also observed that the cultivation technique practiced by the gentleman is the rejuvenation secret technique. But it is not practiced correctly, likely because the cultivation technique is incomplete, leading to the failure in building the Dan Tian blood tower in the Danshan. If the gentleman is willing to lend a hand, the young lady would impart the authentic rejuvenation secret technique to help the gentleman build the Dan Tian blood tower." How about that? A huge wave surged in Lin Ziasu's heart. He practiced the rejuvenation skill. It was not surprising that the Lord could see through it at a glance. However, she mentioned the rejuvenation secret technique. And she also mentioned that he practiced it incorrectly. This cultivation technique had been developed by him and Miao Rulan beyond the route set by their ancestors. How could it still be incorrect? Wait, she mentioned the technique was incomplete. Miao Renji, the ancestor of the Miao family who was originally an eunuch, cultivated based on the imperial court scriptures. If the imperial court scriptures were incomplete themselves, then the passed-down rejuvenation skill would never be complete. In the world, who else could possess scriptures more complete than those of the imperial court? Probably only Kun Kang. People from Kun Kang, living for hundreds of years through countless dynasties, they existed before the dynasties. And what's a blood tower? This would probably be the biggest challenge for Lin Ziasu. He cultivated the ancient martial rejuvenation skill, but there was no progression ladder afterward. He didn't even know what ladders there were in the cultivation path, and building the Dan Tian blood tower seemed to be the proper cultivation path, finally touching upon specific progression ladders. These were all that he wanted. However, the difficulty remained. One condition after another from the other side, each made his heart itch, but he didn't have what the other side wanted, so what to do? Seeing his bewildered expression, the Lord completely misunderstood, thinking her conditions were not enough to move the array master, hence she increased the intensity. The incompleteness of the gentleman's rejuvenation secret technique, aside from our valley, no other sect in the world can complement it, simply because the rejuvenation techniques that occasionally leak to the outer world are all incomplete fragments. If the gentleman agrees, the young lady is also willing to share her 100-year cultivation experiences with the gentleman. Even Feng Jai changed her expression at this point. The 100-year cultivation experiences of the Lord, even she as her foremost disciple, had no chance to hear them. Today, the Lord was actually willing to share it with this array master. Lin Ziasu let out a light breath. Lord, is this array so important to Shenghua Valley? He was, of course, aware of the weight of the price the Lord had quoted. This also corroborated the importance of this grand array to Shenghua Valley. The Lord sighed gently. It concerns the dignity of Shenghua Valley, as well as the survival of 3,000 disciples. Would the Lord be willing to share the story behind this? Asked Lin Ziasu. Please return to your seat, sir. The Lord bowed slightly. They returned to the cavern, and the Lord spoke of the origins of this grand array. This grand array was related to the centuries-old grudge between Shenghua Valley and Tianyan Palace. Tianyan Palace, a disgraceful sect, collected the world's beauties, using charm as a weapon, infiltrating various sects, even infiltrating the mortal world to gain unspeakable benefits for themselves. Their cultivation techniques were primarily based on seductive powers in bed, and they even had the effect of usurping others, true Yuan. But among the entire Kun Kang, only the disciples of Shenghua Valley had the most active true Yuan, because they cultivated the rejuvenation secret technique, infused with the life law. 300 years ago, the heavenly beauty palace master came to Shenghua Valley, proposing to merge with Shenghua Valley. In Kun Kang, sects often merged or split, and it was normal because these land sects were actually established by various hidden experts. As disciples gradually increased, they eventually formed sects. Establishing a sect happened in a flash, and so did merging. However, the Lord clearly knew that the merger between Tianyan Palace and Shenghua Valley was anything but innocent. This was purely aimed at her disciples. Tianyan Palace was finding food for its disciples. With just her nod, her more than 4,000 disciples would become the cauldrons for the others' cultivation. Therefore she refused. She refused without mercy. Tianyan Palace turned hostile, a great battle ensued, and Tianyan Palace didn't come out on top, leaving behind several elder corpses as they fled Shenghua Valley. Had things ended here, Shenghua Valley could have been considered victorious. But unexpectedly, the Tianyan sect took a very decisive measure, inviting an array master from Kun Kang to seal the passage from Shenghua Valley to Kun Kang. The place they just saw was the only passage to the 82 peaks of Kun Kang. Once this passage was sealed, Shenghua Valley became a huge cage. The people inside Shenghua Valley couldn't leave this grand array. Yet the people from Tianyan Palace, knowing the secrets of the grand array, could come and go as they pleased. What did this become? Shenghua Valley became the caged insects and birds, and they came in to catch one or two whenever they felt like it. If Shenghua Valley's people wanted to retaliate, they simply exited the array, and no matter how powerful Shenghua Valley was, they could only sigh across the array. Thus, the people of Shenghua Valley have kept diminishing. Originally, there were over 4,700 disciples. Now only less than 3,000 remain. Moreover, among these 3,000, several hundred female disciples had been violated, their true yuan greatly damaged, their dignity lost, living worse than death. Besides, another key point was that Shenghua Valley couldn't recruit talents from outside like other sects. There was no passage. They couldn't even open the door to connect with the outside world. While other sects collected all kinds of geniuses, possessing endless possibilities, Shenghua Valley couldn't collect anything, only gradually marginalized in the grand scheme of Kun Kang. The Lord shared these details with a tinge of sorrow. Lin Ziasu listened to all this, and the fog in his mind gradually cleared. So that was it. Chapter 179. Chapter 179. The Idle Books in the Kangshu Pavilion. No wonder that girl named Gu Yu got so excited when she saw him. She harbors a deep grudge against Tianyan Palace. No wonder the Lord reacted so strongly when he learned about his array mastery, because for Shenghua Valley, pain is dealt with by arrays, and so is calming the pain. Tianyan Palace selects disciples based on their appearance. So what about Li Sisi? Could it be that she was admitted to Tianyan Palace? The possibility is significant because there are very few sects that select disciples based on their appearance. Why would they have such a bizarre method of selecting disciples? Because this sect conducts itself differently from others. It infiltrates other sects. It even infiltrates worldly affairs. Beauties are used as tools, handsome men as well. All are tools, at least in terms of infiltration. However, a sect that uses beauty as a tool is clearly not any proper righteous sect. The complexities of Kun Kang have now been laid out in front of Lin Ziasu for the first time. No wonder Blue Demon said that it's difficult to distinguish between good and evil in Kun Kang. Now he truly understands. It's not that Kun Kang can't differentiate between good and evil. It is inherently interwoven with both. Because Kun Kang is not just one sect. It is comprised of countless leaders, countless people, each with their own philosophies and standards of conduct. Finally, Lin Ziasu lifted his head. The Lord was hugely stirred. The fate of thousands in Shenghua Valley hung in the balance, and even for a lord adept at manipulating fate, it wasn't easy to remain detached. In a physical confrontation, she fears no one. But arrays are different, utilizing the power of heaven and earth. An array acts as a cage. Even a high-level cultivator locked within it is like a caged beast, possessing might yet unable to break the seal of heaven and earth. Breaking this seal is her greatest desire. Now, could the person before her help achieve this? Judging by his age, he couldn't inspire a shred of confidence in her. However, he has crossed the forbidden zones of the ancient array sect, zones not even top array masters of Kun Kang could cross. Lin Ziasu spoke up. My lord, the array path I master is from the outside world, different from the array path of Kun Kang. Could you procure some books on the array path of Kun Kang for my reference? Hearing the first part, the lord felt directly rejected. Array path, since when is there a distinction between foreign and local? He was clearly refusing. But upon hearing the latter part, she wasn't so sure. It seemed he was still willing to resolve the issue. The Lord said, our valley doesn't possess profound books on array, otherwise we would have deciphered them ourselves. Lin Ziasu responded, we don't need anything too profound, the more fundamental the better, because it's the foundational arrays that reveal their true principles. Foundational cultivation techniques indeed reveal the essence of cultivation techniques, the Lord remarked. Fengjai. Present. Take this young master to the Kangshu Pavilion. Provide him with whatever he needs. Yes. Lin Zaiasu followed the swaying Feng Jai, walking uphill. At the peak of the mountain, there was a cave guarded by several elders, the Kanshu Pavilion of Shenghua Valley. Kanshu Pavilion is the core of the sect, typically inaccessible to outsiders, but exceptions always exist, especially when the books inside are basic, far from the true depths of the sect, especially when the visitor is key to liberating the entire sect. To be honest, Lin Zaiasu felt a bit embarrassed. The Lord had offered so many conditions that it made him itchy with anticipation. But alas, the baby's heart was bitter, a bitterness unspoken. His greatest sorrow was that in array paths, about which others pinned their high hopes, he knew absolutely nothing. He had no choice but to cram at the last minute. I'll learn about array path right here, on the spot. The Lord also felt embarrassed. She felt that the array foundations of Shenghua Valley were too shallow, too basic, embarrassed to present them in front of this prodigious master of array path. But if she knew that this peerless talent specifically needed the most basic enlightenment on array knowledge, who knows what she would think. Entering the Kanshu Pavilion, Lin Zaiasu saw the vast space filled with rows of wooden shelves, all filled with books. His heartbeat instantaneously spiked to 180. Reading was a repetitive process for him. Before age 20, he became tired of books. After 20, studying for civil service exams almost made him vomit. Before acquiring human Tao Orchid Heart, if anyone said reading was joyful, he would argue fervently. However, after acquiring human Tao Orchid Heart, his whole perception changed. He loved reading. Not laborious, very joyful, reading anything was delightful, joy stemming from. It stemmed from the huge gains each session brought, similar to the logic of writing. If written content brought no money, no tickets, no recognition, the author would write more anxiously. But if writing exchanged for subscriptions, rewards, and monthly tickets, the author would write with growing excitement. Every time he read, he gained transformative insights into some field, naturally enjoying reading. Even the county library was a pleasure, let alone this immensely profound treasure trove. Young master, here are the books on array path. Feng Jai pointed gently toward a shelf inside. Lin Zaiasu walked over, picked up a book. A thread-bound book, Basics of Array Formations. He skimmed it 10 lines at a glance. Quickly he switched to another, Array Collection. Again, reading 10 lines at a glance. Feng Jai, standing by his side, wasn't staring at him intentionally, but in fact she was closely observing. This is the Kanshu Pavilion. Though not the top one, it involves the foundation of Shenghua Valley, so one can't just let it be destroyed, right? The Lord might be worried and confused, treating any array path talent found as a life-saving straw. She seems to be more rational than the Lord, always doubting whether this person really understands the array at all. The profound depth of array is known to all on the cultivation path. The outside world is known as the land of the end of Dharma, and people of Kun can have reached a consensus on this as well. When speaking of a young man from the outside world who is proficient in array, why does she find it so hard to believe? However, the manner in which this young man studies the array instills some unusual elements in her heart bit by bit. He truly appears to be confirming and referencing, for he reads very quickly, practically 10 lines in a single glance. If he is not just putting on a show, then the only explanation is that his foundation in array path is extremely strong, making these basic array books appear trivial to him. This is common sense. However, what she does not know is that this person is actually reading at his slowest pace. Lin Zaiasu's heart stormed with waves. The profound concept of array path, spontaneously emerging and maturing in his mind, slowly forming its own outline. Array utilizes the forces of heaven and earth to exhibit great power. Array has thousands of purposes, mainly for killing, trapping, blocking, confusing, transforming. Array is categorized, innate array and acquired array. Innate array being the natural creation formed by the landscape, while acquired array involves human alteration of fate. Array has key elements, array materials, array base, array patterns. These are actually the basic theories of array. Knowing these holds little use in setting up or breaking arrays, but it filled the void in Lin Zaiasu's understanding of array path. A total of 5 basic array books, Lin Zaiasu didn't miss any, looked through all, and memorized them all. However, it did not solve the current problem. As the Lord said, the foundational understanding of array in Shenghua Valley is very shallow. If there were profound array books, Wouldn't the elder of the valley have studied the books to death already and figured out a solution to the crisis? Is there any other opportunity? Lin Zaiyasu, with his heavenly Tao wisdom eye, scanned the surrounding bookshelves. Suddenly, a book caught his eye. The characters on the cover of this book were a script he found very familiar. It was the script that appeared in the temple and also repeatedly on the ruins last night. Lin Zaiyasu walked 3 steps and picked up the book. Feng Jai had a curious look in her eyes. Do you recognize ancient wilderness text? I do you? I do. Lin Zaiasu's heart skipped a beat. She knows this script. Then the text in the temple, the steel text he memorized, could be decoded by her. He had an impulse to immediately jot down these characters and present them to her. However, this is Kun Kang, where good and evil are hard to distinguish. This steel might involve something significant, and rationality told him it's best not to trust anyone lightly. The ideal method is to learn this script himself. Learning a script from scratch is a 10-year ordeal for ordinary people. But for him, maybe. Lin Zaiyasu asked, what does this book say? Feng Jai gave a slight smile. Just a casual book, it tells the cultivation story of a cultivator. Can you read it to me? The smile on Feng Jai's face stiffened. Read it to you. Yes, I'm quite interested in the cultivation stories recorded in ancient wilderness text. Feng Jai said, now. I have seen almost enough of the array references. A bunch of information also needs to be integrated in my mind. And since I'm free anyway, listening to a cultivation story can be like giving my brain a wash. Feng Jai appeared slightly helpless. All right then, I'll read it to you. Feng Jai picked up the book, pointing at the cover, said, these 4 characters are wandering souls of the dead. Lin Zaiyasu stretched out his hand, picked up a stool from the ground, handed it to Feng Jai to sit, and he himself sat behind Feng Jai. Read it. Feng Jai began to read the book. Lin Zaiasu's heavenly Tao wisdom eye was firmly locked. A unique approach to language learning thus unfolded. No one could imagine that he was learning the ancient wilderness script in such a bizarre manner, because it was simply an impossible thing. But under the gaze of human Tao orchid heart, there is nothing that is absolutely impossible. On the first page, Lin Zaiyasu still needed to watch her eye movements align with which character, thus determining which word corresponded to that character. But after only 3 pages, he no longer needed to watch her focus, because on this page, he already recognized some of the recurring characters, and using these characters as references, he knew which line and word she had read. Never forgetting what he saw, and equally never forgetting what he heard, comparing the two, the ancient wilderness script began forming images in his brain. Outside the cave, 10 meters away, the Lord appeared at some point, standing at the cliff edge, her brows slightly furrowed. Suddenly, a graceful figure landed beside her. It was the girl named Gu Yu. Gu Yu's gaze turned towards the Kangshu pavilion. Her facial expressions immediately became vivid. Master, I still feel this lad is not a good sort.